Chapter 274. Grandmaster and the rest were very confused as they looked at the energetic Titan. Is this old fellow's recovery ability so strong? They had sensed earlier that this fellow was severely injured and wouldn't be able to fight for a short period of time. They didn't expect him to be able to recover after such a short period of time. However, both sides didn't have much soul power left, and the victor had already been decided. They shouldn't be fighting for a short period of time. Your martial soul fusion skill is quite powerful, but it's still not enough in front of the Strength Clan. However, this matter ends here today. We'll fight again next time. Titan was also very confused. He had only felt a sudden warmth in his body earlier, and his injuries had mostly healed. This matter was very strange, so he had to figure out the situation. Furthermore, he had lost the battle earlier, so it was better for him to leave as soon as possible. Right now, he was only saying this to save the Strength Clan's face one last time. As he spoke, he prepared to leave with Tai Long and Tinin. Grandmaster and the rest didn't choose to stop them, as it wasn't appropriate for them to continue fighting. As for Lin Feng, how could he just let Tai Tan leave in such a situation? He wasn't angry, so he wouldn't fight back immediately. As he thought, Lin Feng controlled Thanos to use his soul power to shout in the forest, "The Strength Clan is just SOSO. The young ones can't do it, and the old ones are weak. You still need me to treat you. You're too trashy." This voice was very similar to the voice transmission from 1,000 miles away in wuxia television dramas. It came from all directions in the forest, and no one knew where it was coming from. Hearing this voice, everyone from Shrek was confused. They didn't understand what was going on. On the other hand, Titan was furious. Damn it! The Shrek Academy has gone too far. Just you wait. To him, the situation was very clear. There were other experts in the Shrek Academy, and they were the ones who treated his injuries earlier. Right now, he was being mocked, and it wasn't just directed at him, but at everyone from the Strength Clan. Titan couldn't take it anymore. For the other party to be able to hide so well, he had to be at least a powerful soul Doloa or even a titled Doloa. Otherwise, he should have been able to sense it. But Doloa was a titled battle pet warrior, so what? How dare he belittle the tribe of strength? The Titan was not to be trifled with. As one of the 3 divine blacksmiths on the continent and the only divine blacksmith in the Heaven Do Empire, Titan knew many experts. Almost all of the major powers in Heaven Do City had interacted with him before. Now that he was being bullied in Shrek Academy, he couldn't tolerate it. Even a titled Doloa had to give him an explanation. Thinking of this, Titan immediately ran out of the academy with his son and grandson. He was going to find some helpers to put an end to the arrogance of the Shrek Academy. Doloa was just a titled battle pet warrior. He would like to see how arrogant the Doloa could be. Not long after the Titan left, Grandmaster shouted into the forest, "Is that His Holiness Thanos?" Lu Erlong and Flanders lowered their heads and stood next to Grandmaster respectfully. They came back to their senses. The only powerful person who could be at the Shrek Academy at this time was Thanos, whom Lin Feng had called over. Next to Lin Feng, Oscar asked excitedly, "Feng Gu, is that Mr. Destroy? I'm so excited." Back in the Great Star Do Forest, Slayer Lord's staff had sent the Titan giant ape flying. That scene was imprinted in everyone's hearts, and they couldn't forget it for a long time. "Feng Gu, you always say that Mr. Destroy is handsome and mighty, but he always wears a mask. Have you seen what he looks like under the mask?" Ning Rongrong asked curiously. Lin Feng was surprised. "But soon," he answered, "of course I have. I was lucky enough to see him once in the Soul Hunting Forest. He is as handsome as I am." Everyone suddenly shut their mouth. Not again. Every time they talked about Thanos with Feng Gu, he would always say that he was handsome. They were tired of hearing that. Right then, Thanos showed up. He was wearing a white mask, a cyan robe, and his long hair was fluttering in the wind. He was so handsome. He glanced at everyone. His eyes seemed to contain the 9 heavens and the Milky Way, incomparably deep. Ning Rongrong's heart raced. Ah. I'm attracted to him. **T, I can't avoid his gaze. Xiao Wu came over and whispered to Lin Feng, Feng Gu, forgive me for being blunt, but Mr. Destroy is much more handsome than you. Lin Feng knocked her head with the back of his hand. His face darkened. Who's more handsome? Feng. Feng Gu is more handsome. Xiao Wu quickly said. Duang. Ouch. Xiao Wu was knocked on the head again. Her big eyes were full of grievances. Why did you hit me again? I'm as handsome as Mr. Destroy. Xiao Wu, don't be wrong next time. Lin Feng laughed. Xiao Wu was speechless. While they were fooling around, Thanos was already talking to the Master and the others. Your Highness Slayer Overlord, I wonder what happened just now. Before the Master could finish his sentence, Thanos interrupted him. I did it on purpose. Let them come. I'll beat them up. Thanos shared his thoughts and chatted for a while. Then, he left. Although Lin Feng's incarnation could completely transform into another person, his personality was still Lin Feng's original personality. As the saying goes, the more one speaks, the more mistakes one makes. In order to avoid suspicion, he didn't say much. After Thanos left, Lu Erlong exclaimed, I always thought that I was a violent person. Now, it seems that I'm still not mature enough. They had understood Lin Feng's intention from the conversation. He had angered Tai Tan so that he could summon more people. Then, Thanos would beat those people up. Although this behavior was very puzzling, what was the purpose of doing this? But the world of a titled Doluo was not something that they, who didn't even have a soul Doluo, could imagine. Tai Tan is one of the 3 divine blacksmiths on the continent. He has a lot of connections in Heavendo City. What if many people come? Flanders was worried. Well, yes. If many people come, not even a titled Doluo will be able to stop them. The Master frowned. At this time, Tang San and the others also gathered around. Lin Feng smiled and said, Don't worry, Lord Mia just transmitted a message to me. It doesn't matter how many of them come, I'll beat them all up. Telepathy was an advanced soul power application skill. Usually, only titled Doluo could use it. Some soul Doluo could use it as well. A soul master who could use such a skill couldn't be weak. Lin Feng's words made the Master smile again. Mr. Destroy is awesome. That Doluo guy was easily beaten. Not even a bunch of soul Doluo can defeat Mr. Destroy. Tang San had been saved by Thanos several times. He was a die-hard fan of Thanos. Chapter 275. After hearing Tang San's words, everyone suddenly recalled that Thanos was a super expert who could even suppress titled Doluo. Grandmaster was well aware of how difficult it was to achieve this. To a titled Doluo, this was the end of the road for a soul master. Anyone who could reach this level was extremely powerful. To be able to suppress another titled Doluo, one had to have soul rings and soul bones in addition to the difference in their rank. Thanos was able to suppress Dugubo. Perhaps their ranks weren't much lower, but his soul rings and soul bones were definitely very powerful. After chatting for a while, everyone felt more relaxed as they returned to the Academy's housing area. At this moment, Grandmaster pulled Tang San aside. Xiao San, I have something to tell you. Grandmaster looked very serious. It's about your father and the Clan of Strength. My father? What does he have to do with the Clan of Strength? Tang San was puzzled. I've told you about the 3 upper sects before, right? The 3 upper sects are the Clear Sky sect, the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan. I know that. Didn't the Clear Sky sect go into seclusion? What does this have to do with my father? Tang San was even more puzzled. Until now, Tang San still didn't know what his hammer-type martial soul was called. Nobody had told him about it, and he didn't use it at all, so he didn't pay much attention to it. The Seven Treasures Glazed Pagoda is known as the strongest auxiliary type martial soul, and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon is known as the strongest beast type martial soul. What about the strongest offensive type martial soul? Clear Sky Rod. For some reason, Tang San suddenly thought of Thanos' rod. Grandmaster also mentioned the Clear Sky sect. Could it be that Thanos was from the Clear Sky sect? But what does this have to do with his father? It's the Clear Sky Hammer of the Clear Sky sect, Grandmaster said angrily. When he heard that, Tang San, who was about to use Thanos' stick to retort, was stunned. He suddenly thought of the hammer in his hand. Don't tell me, my second martial soul is the Clear Sky Hammer? Tang San asked in surprise. That's right. Your father is a member of the Supreme Sky sect. As his son, you are also a member of the Supreme Sky sect. The Grandmaster sighed. The Master took out a token of the Martial Spirit Hall with 6 patterns on it and continued, This token belongs to your father. He is the youngest titled battle pet warrior on the continent, Dolua. His title is Haotian. He gave me this token and told me to take good care of you. At this moment, Tang San's mind was in a mess. Did the Master mean that he had met his father before? But he didn't know what was going on. And Haotian Dolua? Was his father also a titled battle pet warrior, Dolua? And he was a member of the Supreme Sky sect. At this moment, the Grandmaster continued, The Supreme Sky sect has 2 Dolua. Your uncle Tang Tian and your father Tang, how once made the entire world of soul cultivators tremble. Back then, the Supreme Sky sect and the Martial Spirit Hall had a fierce battle between titled battle pet warriors. Both sides suffered losses. The Supreme Pontiff of the Martial Spirit Hall died, and the Supreme Sky sect retreated. The Grandmaster didn't know the details of that battle. He could only tell what he knew. Why did my father fight with the Martial Spirit Hall? Tang San was confused. I don't know. That's a secret between the Supreme Sky sect and the Martial Spirit Hall. Anyway, your father left the Supreme Sky sect after that. Then how is my father related to the Clan of Strength? Tang San asked again. We'll have to start from that great battle again. Back then, the Grandmaster told him about how the Supreme Sky sect retreated and how the 4 major clans were attacked by the Martial Spirit Hall. Among the 4 affiliated clans, only the Clan of Strength suffered less losses. The other clans suffered heavy losses, and they hated the Supreme Sky sect. They should hate the Supreme Sky sect. Tang San nodded. If he was a member of the 4 major clans, he should hate the Supreme Sky sect too. At the same time, he was dissatisfied with the Supreme Sky sect's sudden retreat. Feng Go had taught him to be responsible. The Supreme Sky sect's actions were not right. Although your father left the Supreme Sky sect, before the Supreme Sky sect retreated, he was still the deputy clan leader. As his son, you are the young master. Logically speaking, the 4 major clans should be loyal to you. However, the Supreme Sky sect abandoned the 4 major clans, so the 2 clans have nothing to do with each other. However, everyone in the Clan of Strength is simple-minded. To put it bluntly, they are a little stupid. Also, their losses were relatively small. If you reveal your identity, you might be able to subdue them. So now I'll tell you all this and see what you think. The Clan of Strength was still a considerable force. If there was a conflict or an accident later, this was not what the Master wanted to see. Therefore, he told Tang San's identity to see what he would do. Young Master? Tang San's face was very calm. He felt that this term was very sarcastic. He did not feel much about the Supreme Sky sect. Wasn't it just the #1 sect? After following Lin Feng for a long time, he felt that the sect was high and mighty. Now, he felt that it was nothing. Previously, Ning Fengji had placed an order for 5 million gold coins for hidden weapons. When the hidden weapons were manufactured, he would be able to earn 5 million gold coins. As for his identity as the young master, he did not care much. If he was really the young master, he would feel that he owed the clan of strength. After all, the Supreme Sky sect had abandoned them. So many people from the 4 major clans had died. If he still wanted to use his identity as the young master of the Supreme Sky sect to subdue the clan of Mantis and make them pledge their loyalty, Tang San would feel ashamed. If he really wanted to subdue the clan of strength, he would definitely not use his identity to do so. However, compared to that, Tang San cared more about his father, Tang Hao. "Master, did my father say anything to you back then? Did he tell you why he didn't come to see me? It's been so many years, but he didn't even see me once." Tang San's eyes were slightly red. All these years, he had lived very happily. With Feng Guo and Xiao Wu by his side, he did not miss his father much. However, sometimes, he would look up at the starry sky and wonder why his father suddenly left and disappeared. Now that he knew Tang Hao's true identity, that thought suddenly became stronger. He was already so powerful, and had been titled Doluo for 7 years. Why did his father not see him even once? "Don't think too much, Xiao-san. I'm guessing that your father has never left you. He has been silently protecting you," the master said. Tang San was stunned. "Weren't you beaten up by Zhao Wuji when you just joined the assessment in Soto City?" The next day, his face was bruised and swollen. He was a soul sage. Who could beat him up like that? "I'm guessing it's only your father," the master guessed. Hearing this, Tang San's eyes lit up. "That's right. Feng Guo also told me about this. Feng Guo said that my father might have been protecting me. When I obtained the soul ring in the soul hunting forest, I felt an inexplicable sense of security. That was the first time Lin Feng felt a faint sense of being spied on. Tang San was absorbing the 3rd soul ring at that time. Perhaps Tang San was too excited and let his guard down, allowing Lin Feng to discover some subtle movements. At that time, Lin Feng was almost nervous to death. He was not worried that Tang San would not be able to absorb the soul ring, but that some of his actions in the forest had been discovered by Tang Hao. In his nervousness, he casually told Tang San about this guest to ease the atmosphere. He did not expect Tang San to still remember it. Right, Lin Feng's previous worries were nothing. Tang Hao should not be watching Tang San at all times. He probably only came to take a look when he was free. The things that Lin Feng did in the forest were not discovered, because for so long, Tang Hao had not appeared in front of Lin Feng. One had to know that the things he did were too shocking. If Tang Hao saw a soul elder holding a 1,000-year-old soul beast hammer, he would definitely come out to meet him. However, he did not, so Tang Hao should not have discovered him. Chapter 276. Tang San learned a lot of important information from the Grandmaster. For example, the Clear Sky sect, his father's identity, and his own identity. Oh right, the Grandmaster also told him that his father might be by his side. Was he in Heaven Do City now? He wanted to shout, but Tang San knew that his father was probably not there. Otherwise, Mr. Destroy would have discovered him. Tang San guessed that his father should have left not long after he entered Shrek Academy. Otherwise, he would have helped him in the Star Do Great Forest. "Dad, when are you going to see me again? I miss you so much." Tang San still missed Tang Hao very much. Now that he knew this news, it made him miss Tang Hao even more. However, his emotions were only temporary. He quickly recovered and asked a question that he really wanted to know. "Teacher, do you know who my mother is?" Tang San had never seen his mother since he was born. Tang Hao never mentioned it either, as if he was deliberately trying to forget about it. This was also a question that had always been in his mind. He clearly remembered that when he was born, he seemed to have heard his mother's voice and Tang Hao's heart-wrenching scream. Tang San knew that something must have happened to his mother. "I don't know about that, but I do know that based on your age, your mother gave birth to you during the war between the Clear Sky sect and the Martial Spirit Palace." After that, Tang Hao left the Clear Sky sect. The Grandmaster didn't know much, but he could guess that the war should have something to do with Tang San's mother. The Martial Spirit Hall? Tang San repeated this name. Tang San's impression of the Martial Spirit Hall was that they gave out subsidies to commoner soul masters like him, and even tested his soul power. Anyway, he didn't see the Martial Spirit Hall doing anything bad. Why did the Clear Sky sect and the Martial Spirit Hall fight? Was it because of his mother? Xiao San, you don't have to think too much about it. Right now, the most important thing is to cultivate. Only when you become stronger will you have the qualifications to explore the secrets behind it. As for this tribe of strength, see how you want to deal with it. Go and discuss it with Fongo. He's smart and should know what to do, the Grandmaster said earnestly. Compared to the Martial Spirit Hall, the Martial Spirit Hall was too weak. So what if Doluo was at the titled rank? It was nothing in front of the Martial Spirit Palace. Back when Master Doluo was still an honorary elder of the Martial Spirit Palace, he had seen 4 titled battle pet warriors. On the continent, only the top 3 sects had a Doluo title. Moreover, the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, which had 2 Doluo titles, was firmly at the top of the list. The Martial Spirit Palace had 4 titled battle pet warriors. Doluo. That was not all. There was a hall of worship in the Martial Spirit City. It was said that all the titled battle pet warriors there were Doluo. But that was just a rumor. No one knew if it was true or not. Even if it was not true, there might still be 1 or 2 titled battle pet warriors hiding in the Martial Spirit Palace. The Martial Spirit Hall was not a force they could afford to offend. Right. I'll go and ask Fongo. Tang San turned around and ran toward Lin Feng. After all these years, Tang San had grown to rely on Lin Feng. Of course, he had to talk to Lin Feng about important matters. Lin Feng seemed to know everything. That was because he knew the plot and knew many things. On the other hand, the Grandmaster, Tang San, and the others knew nothing. Some of the data and judgments were based on the information they had gathered. Speaking of which, Lin Feng didn't really know everything. At least until now, there were still many things that surprised him. For example, why did Xue Qinghe want to cooperate with him? There were 2 titled battle pet warriors hiding in the Heaven Do City. There was also that frightening feeling in the Star Do Great Forest. There were many things that didn't appear in the original work. In Lin Feng's opinion, the Martial Spirit Palace was too stupid. They already had over 20 titled Doluo, and a few of them were even extremely powerful transcendent Doluo. Wouldn't they just have to lead them and sweep through everything in their path? Why would they take their time and sneak in and destroy the regime? Which country on the continent could withstand the combined might of so many titled Doluo? The Heaven Do Empire? So what if there were 2 titled battle pet warriors hiding in the dark? Including the 7 Treasures Glazed sect and Dugubo, with Ning Fengji's help, the Heaven Do Empire could only have 10 titled battle pet warriors. That was not enough. The Martial Spirit Palace was twice as powerful as the Heaven Do Empire. But the Martial Spirit Palace did not do that, which puzzled Lin Feng. Little did he know that the Martial Spirit Palace was not unified yet. Some of the factions had the children of their masters. So many people supported them. Only titled battle pet warriors at the 96th rank or above could take up the position of Master of the Martial Spirit Palace. Their goal was to reach the 100th rank. Therefore, they would cultivate and pursue the opportunity to become gods. Bibi Dong had no right to order them around. Usually, they would not take action unless the Martial Spirit Palace was in a critical situation. Apart from being the Grand Master of the Martial Spirit Palace, Qian Daolu was also the guardian of the Angel Throne. He would receive the inheritance of the Guardian God and would rarely take action. In the original novel, when Tang Hao took Tang San away from Martial Spirit City, he fought against 7 of them alone. The ones he fought were all elders of the Martial Spirit Hall. The few worshippers did not make a move, or else he would not have been able to escape. In fact, there was a very important point that Lin Feng did not understand. That was why he thought the martial spirit palace was stupid. War was not a game. You would not fight just because you were stronger than you. The factors behind it were very complicated. Just like in his previous life, the number of nuclear bombs did not determine who was stronger. If that was the case, then the major countries could build as many nuclear bombs as they could. Whoever had more would be the strongest. It was not like that at all. The essence of war was profit. Even if Bibi Dong could really unify the martial spirit palace, she would not be so stupid as to lead people to fight. The martial Soul Hall had forced their way through and killed titled Doluo and Soul Doluo. They had also paid a price for that, but what had happened after that? The nobles and even the civilians in the Heaven Do Empire hated them. What was the point of that? Maybe they could change this situation in the future, but it would not work in a short time. Moreover, it would take a lot of effort and there was a risk of backlash. Bibi Dong's goal was to build a martial spirit empire, not to take over the mess of the Heaven Do Empire. Compared to this method, which had very low benefits, it was better to let Xue Qinghe control the Heaven Do Empire and then find a chance to secretly destroy the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon and the 7 Treasures Glazed Sect. This was the best choice. Chapter 277. The Star Luo Empire was almost completely under the control of the Martial Spirit Hall. Once Xue Qinghe inherited the throne, he would subtly influence the empire for 2 years and issue some policies that were closer to the Martial Spirit Hall. When the time was right, Bibi Dong would start building her own Martial Spirit Empire. This was actually Bibi Dong's original plan. If not for Tang San's obstruction in the original novel, the Martial Spirit Empire might have already unified the continent. Lin Feng didn't know about these things. Not only him, but Bibi Dong also hadn't perfected this plan yet. Her main goal now was to unify the Martial Spirit Hall and then help Xue Qinghe take over the Heaven Do Empire. Martial Spirit City, inside the Pope's palace. Because 5 soul bones had been secretly used, several elders were looking for Bibi Dong to explain. Your Highness, 5 10,000-year soul bones have been used as a reward. This is a serious matter. Please investigate again. Actually, they all knew that the soul bones were taken by the Pope, but they couldn't say it out loud. After all, this was the current Pope. Furthermore, she was the disciple of the previous Pope and had the support of the High Priest. Perhaps the High Priest wouldn't care about this matter, but they still had to be careful with their words to avoid being caught red-handed. There's no need to investigate. I asked Yu Guan and Gue Mei to take them away. They'll be back in a few days. Bibi Dong directly admitted it. This surprised the elders. They were prepared to beat around the bush to get her to admit it. They didn't expect her to admit it with just one sentence. May I know what the 2 elders are doing? Soul bones are very important. They're related to all the outstanding soul masters in the Martial Spirit Hall. Don't lose them. Elder White Ape, you mean you want me to report it to you? Bibi Dong's eyes narrowed. White Ape Dolo was a rank 92 assault type titled Soul Master. His martial soul was the Icewind White Ape. He was also an elder of the Martial Spirit Hall. After hearing Bibi Dong's words, White Ape cupped his hands and said, I wouldn't dare. It's just that this matter is very important. If it's not important, I'm afraid it won't be easy to convince everyone. That's right. There's never been a case of 5 soul bones being used without permission. This kind of important matter should be discussed with the elders. Someone at the side agreed. The Martial Spirit Palace had this rule. If the Pope wanted to make a major decision, he needed at least 5 elders to agree. It was obvious that using 5 soul bones at once was a major decision, but Bibi Dong hadn't obtained the approval of the 5 elders. In fact, the reason why they opposed Bibi Dong becoming the Pope was very simple. His strength was not enough to convince the masses. When the previous Pope died, the Martial Spirit Palace was in chaos. At that time, Bibi Dong was only at the level of Soul Doluo, so he took advantage of the situation to become the Pope. In the first few years, nothing happened in the martial spirit hall. After all, the change of the Pope did not affect much. Bibi Dong was the disciple of the previous Pope, so his weakness was not a problem. But later on, because Bibi Dong wanted to conquer the entire continent, he started all kinds of reforms, not only external but also internal reforms. The Martial Spirit Palace was a large force. Although it was a neutral organization, many of its members had been planted there by the two empires, including Dolu. Furthermore, many of the soul masters in the Martial Soul Hall were related to the nobles of the two empires, and their interests were tangled and complicated. Bibi Dong's reforms immediately affected the interests of many people in the Martial Spirit Palace. In addition, everyone's impression of Bibi Dong was that he was just a soul Dolu. This kind of strength was not enough to be the Pope, so they started to resist. However, Bibi Dong was very resourceful. He used the various factions to restrict each other, and then he secretly recruited the elders. After so many years, not only did he recruit Yu Guan and Gui Mei, but he also recruited 3 other elders. But of the 3 elders, only one was in Martial Spirit City. Of the other 2, one was in Star Luo City, and the other was Yingluan. He was in Heaven Do City. Of course, in addition to the elders, many Soul Doloa and Soul Sages were also recruited by the Pope, and there were many of them. After all, she was the legitimate Pope, and many Soul Masters respected her very much. Because of this, she slowly gained a foothold in Martial Spirit City. She also believed that when the new generation of the Martial Spirit Palace was nurtured by her, she would be able to completely control the Martial Spirit Palace. When the time came, the current elders would also be loyal to her. "Are you teaching me how to do things?" Bibi Dong's tone was very calm, but his words caused the temperature in the Pope's palace to drop a few degrees. "We don't dare," the elders replied. They wanted to overthrow the current Pope, but they had to find an opportunity to do so. Since Bibi Dong was the Pope now, they did not dare to openly oppose him. "Since that's the case, you may leave. Yu Guan and Gui Mei will be back in a few days." Bibi Dong continued. This White Ape Doloa still wanted to say something. Bibi Dong's voice rose a notch. "The Continental Academy Elite Tournament is about to begin. Elders, you should focus on this matter." "Yes, Your Highness." The elders could only bid farewell and leave. It seemed that the Pope's attitude was very firm on this matter. The few of them were not strong enough. Unless they could persuade the consecrators to act, or summon the elders who were out on missions, it would take time. However, all of this required time. Perhaps Moon Pass and Ghost Charm would be back by then. Although it might be useless, they still had to grasp the opportunity. The elders also began to work. In the hall, Bibi Dong calculated the time. There were about 5 days left. If Yu Guan and the others did not return in 5 days, she would have to give up some benefits. In the Shrek Academy, Tang San returned to the crowd. He immediately pulled Xiao Wu and Lin Feng out. Everyone looked at the Grandmaster in confusion. The Grandmaster smiled and told them about Tang San's identity. However, he did not say much. He only told them about the Clear Sky sect and Tang San's identity. This kind of thing could not be hidden. There was no harm in telling them now. Damn, Xiao San is the young master of the Clear Sky sect. Dai Mubai's mouth was wide open. His father is the rumored genius Clear Sky Dolu. He is a genius soul master that even my father praises, Ning Rongrong said. Everyone was amazed. At the same time, they all had the same thought in their minds. Lin Feng was so strong, and he had the support of Thanos. Now, Tang San's identity was exposed. He was the young master of the Clear Sky sect, and he had the support of the titled Dolu. If the 3 of them were already so powerful, then Xiao Wu had to be quite something as well. Was she also backed by a titled Dolua? All of a sudden, everyone started to discuss. Even the Grandmaster could not help but join in. Chapter 278. While they were discussing this, Tang San had already told Lin Feng and Xiao Wu what the Grandmaster had told him earlier. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He was not surprised at all. He had already known. On the other hand, Xiao Wu, who was at the side, was slightly nervous. She asked, "Third brother, if your father has been observing us, would he have discovered my identity long ago?" "This is very likely." Tang San nodded and said, "But don't worry, I'm here. I won't let you get hurt." In fact, Tang San was also very puzzled. A soul master at the level of Soul Dolua could see through Xiao Wu's identity. His father was already a titled Dolua, so he must have discovered it long ago. In this world, the relationship between soul masters and soul beasts could be described as fire and water. Logically speaking, his father should have killed Xiao Wu. Even if he did not use his soul ring, 100,000-year soul bone was extremely powerful. However, Tang Hao did not do so. There should be a reason behind it. "Xiao Wu, don't worry. It'll be fine." Lin Feng also smiled and comforted her. Their comforting words slowly calmed Xiao Wu down. At this moment Tang San asked, "Feng Gu, what should we do now? The Strength clan that Tai Tan belongs to might recognize my identity as the young master and be subdued by me. However, we are already at odds with Tai Tan. I'm afraid that if I reveal my identity, they might settle old and new scores with me." Lin Feng patted Tang San's shoulder. "Xiao San, you're still too inexperienced. You have to remember that identity is not the most important thing. You're the young master. If your father and the Clear Sky sect are no longer around, no matter how loyal they are, they will still be disloyal. In the end, the main thing is still strength. You have to be stronger than them. Only then can you make them submit completely." This time, Lord Annihilation took action and taught them a lesson. "After that, you can go and find that old guy, Titan, and reveal your identity. He will definitely recognize you." Feng Gu is right. Strength is everything. Xiao Wu was very clear about this. Soul beasts were actually a little purer than soul masters. There was no such thing as scheming and scheming. If I'm stronger than you, you have to submit to me. Back then, Xiao Wu had formed a deep friendship with Daming and Erming because she took care of them. Later on, she was protected by her two younger brothers, and was able to safely grow into a 100,000-year soul beast. Otherwise, a weak soft bone rabbit like her might not even be able to defeat a few 50,000-year soul beasts, even if it was a 90,000-year soul beast. "I understand. I'll go out after Mr. Destroy defeats them." Tang San also nodded. Lin Feng's words were always able to enlighten him. Just now, he was still wondering if he should tell Titan his identity, but now Lin Feng's words had enlightened him. As expected of Feng Gu. "That's right. You're the young master of the Clear Sky sect." Lin Feng laughed and deliberately emphasized the word young master. Tang San hurriedly said, "What kind of young master am I? I don't even know what the Clear Sky sect is like. Furthermore, I feel that the Clear Sky sect is a little too cold-blooded. Perhaps they have some hidden troubles. Otherwise, they wouldn't have abandoned the four great clans." Xiao Wu's thoughts were very simple. They all fought together. In the end, the Clear Sky sect suffered some losses, but at least they managed to retain most of their strength. As for the four great clans, other than the Strength clan, which didn't suffer much damage and is doing quite well now, the other three clans have all been ostracized. They are all having a hard time now, especially the Posey clan. They were killed the most by the Martial Spirit Palace back then, and now they are almost exterminated. And all of this is because the Clear Sky sect was implicated by the Martial Spirit Palace. Lin Feng explained. "The Martial Spirit Palace is so evil," Xiao Wu said angrily. Her words were extremely simple. Xiao Wu was too inexperienced. She only looked at the most basic surface of things, and could only differentiate between good and bad. The Martial Spirit Palace killed people from the four great clans, so they were the bad guys. On the other hand, the 4 great clans were killed, so they were the good guys. Tang San had seen more, and at least he knew the cause and effect. He sighed and said, Xiao Wu, it's not because of the martial spirit palace, but because of the clear sky sect's retreat. If not for the clear sky sect's retreat, the martial spirit palace wouldn't care about the 4 great clans. Oh, I see. Then the clear sky sect is the bad guy. Xiao Wu said after thinking. You can say that. To the 4 great clans, the clear sky sect and the martial spirit palace are the bad guys. Tang San sighed. Hearing that, Lin Feng didn't say anything. He only praised in his heart, there's no good or bad in a war. It's just that the sides have different standpoints. Moreover, the Clear Sky sect's actions were right. If the Clear Sky sect had stayed united and continued to fight the Martial Spirit Palace under Tang Hao's command, the Martial Spirit Palace's honorary elders might have attacked and destroyed the Clear Sky sect. After all, Tang Hao's idea was to directly attack Martial Spirit City. That was the headquarters of the Martial Spirit Palace. If they dared to attack, their honorary elders would dare to come out. Fortunately, the Clear Sky sect didn't listen to Tang Hao and expelled him from the sect. After calming down for such a long time, Tang Hao also knew that the Martial Spirit Palace was a colossus. He had to endure and wait for an opportunity to avenge Ian. Let's not talk about this and that. Let's go back. Lin Feng shook his head. On Tai Tan's side, Lin Feng's incarnation had been watching. At this time, Tai Tan had already summoned 6 Soul Dolua, and it seemed that he would only be able to summon 10 Soul Dolua. It wouldn't be long before that happened. At this time, Lin Feng and the other 2 also returned to the crowd. As soon as they entered, Ning Rongrong and the others all looked at Tang San and said in unison, "Greetings, young master of the Clear Sky sect." After saying that, under Tang San's slightly dumbfounded gaze, everyone laughed out loud. I really didn't expect third brother's father to be the legendary Haotian Dolu. He's my idol! Ma Hongjun exclaimed. That's right, that's right. The vast Sky Dolua is the youngest titled Dolu. The dean told us about him before, Dai Mubai chimed in. After a series of praises, Tang San was a little embarrassed. Everyone gradually stopped. At this time, Ning Rongrong asked curiously, Xiao Wu, your third brother, Feng Ge, has a great expert behind him. As their younger sister, don't tell me there's someone behind her as well? Yes, Xiao Wu, we were all discussing just now. Your identity is definitely not simple, Oscar said. Xiao Wu was a little flustered by this sudden question. She thought that her identity as a soul beast had been discovered. But soon, she smiled and said, How can there be such a coincidence? I don't have anyone behind me. I have Feng Ge and third brother to protect me, and that's already very powerful. That's true. I really envy you, Ning Rongrong said enviously. At the side, Lin Feng couldn't help but ridicule in his heart. Although Xiao Wu doesn't have anyone behind her, she has a soul beast. Daming and Erming, one is a 100,000-year soul beast, and the other is almost a 100,000-year soul beast. They're very strong. Chapter 279. While they were joking around, outside the Shrek Academy, Tai Tan had gathered 10 helpers. Together with him, there were 11 Dolua in total. They were marching toward the Shrek Academy. Brother Tai Tan, how did this academy offend you? Why are you here? The 10 Soul Dolua helpers were typically the leaders of the various families or organizations. They had been summoned here because they were very curious about what had happened in Shrek Academy. Many of them didn't know about the Shrek Academy. Wasn't it called the Lanba Academy? Why did it change its name? Tai Tan didn't mention it before because there were too many people outside, and he didn't want to lose face. After he entered the academy, Tai Tan said to his friends, There is a titled battle pet warrior Dolua in the Shrek Academy. He just humiliated the House of Strength. I'm here to get back at him. His titled battle pet warrior Dolu. Someone gasped. Some remained calm. All 11 of them were Sol Doluo. Titled Battle Pet Warrior Doluo was nothing to them. Some of them were even excited. Yes, that guy was Yu Yuanqing, an elder of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family. Yu Yuanqing was there to watch the show. He saw that Tai Tan was calling for reinforcements. Yu Yuanqing was on good terms with Tai Tan, and since this was the Shrek Academy, Yu Yuanqing decided to come and help. At the same time, Yu Yuanqing exclaimed to himself, "No wonder the students of the Shrek Academy are so talented." It turns out that a titled Battle Pet Warrior Doluo is in charge. Yu Yuanqing also learned that this academy used to be called the Lanba Academy. Lanba Academy? Wasn't that the academy founded by Lu Erlong? Many people in his family knew about it. However, there weren't many people who had actually come here. It was Yu Yuanqing's first time there. If he hadn't asked around, he wouldn't have known about the name change. Everyone, Tai, will remember this time's assistance in my heart. After this, I will forge a sharp weapon for each of you. Titan was a divine craftsman, and the weapons he forged were still very strong. The so-called divine craftsmen didn't actually mean that they could create divine weapons used by gods, but weapons that were much stronger than ordinary weapons. In the original work, Tang San had casually created a few slightly powerful hidden weapons, which had shocked the divine craftsmen. From this, one could see how weak the divine craftsmen in this world were. True divine artifacts were not created by divine blacksmiths like Titan and Tang Hao. Most of them were passed down from the realm of the gods, such as Tang San's Poseidon's trident and Qian Rinchue's angelic sword. In Lin Feng's words, the divine artifacts in this world were called pseudo-divine artifacts. He had read the records in books before. In terms of defensive equipment, it would be considered a divine weapon if it could block the attack of a Soul Emperor. In terms of attack, if a Soul Sage used it to deal damage to Sol Doluo, it would also be considered a divine weapon. This kind of divine artifact is definitely a pseudo-divine artifact. It's too weak. Why did this happen? The main reason was that the blacksmithing technology in Doluo's world was too underdeveloped. This was a world of martial souls. The martial souls of soul masters were already their best weapons. Other weapons were not as convenient to use as martial souls. There were even very few people who liked to use weapons to fight. Most of them used their martial souls to fight. In such an environment, blacksmiths were usually used to create farming tools for ordinary people. There were too few blacksmiths who were used to create weapons for soul masters. This was because the demand was very small. If there was no demand, there would be no market. If there was no market, there would be no motivation. This was an endless cycle. The same was true for soul tools. The world of soul masters was too rigidly adhering to the rules. Their thinking was not broadened, and the development of soul tools was almost stagnant. Under such circumstances, the manufacturing industry in Doluo's world could not develop at all. Oh right, the blacksmiths in this world were divided into grades. Elementary blacksmiths, intermediate blacksmiths, advanced blacksmiths, blacksmith masters, blacksmith grandmasters, and divine craftsmen. In fact, there was no need to divide them so carefully. In Lin Feng's opinion, he could casually create something that would make him a blacksmith grandmaster. No matter what shape his thousand trickster ruler took, its power would be at the level of a pseudo-godly weapon. The sharp weapons that Tai Tan promised were usually weapons forged by blacksmith grandmasters. A soul ancestor could fight a soul king with it. If Sol Doluo used it, it could increase his advantage by 1 or 2 ranks. Overall, it was not bad. It was reasonable to use this as a reward. The 10 of them were very happy. Just as they walked into the Shrek Academy, not far away, Hell Wolf Doluo frowned and returned to the palace to report. Previously, when he returned to report, the Snowy Night Emperor asked him to come back and keep a close watch. Tai Yi went to investigate the Shrek Academy. When Hell Wolf brought back the news, the Snowy Night Emperor frowned. Tai Tan had called 10 people to go to the Shrek Academy. It felt like there was going to be a big battle. This was a battle between titled Doloa in the city. Would the Golden Iron Triangle be able to withstand it? They did not know about Thanos and thought that the strongest in the academy was the Golden Iron Triangle. At this moment they were afraid that there would be casualties. Send 3,000 people over to maintain order. I'll have to trouble Hell Wolf Doloa to bear with it, the Snowy Knight Emperor said. Yes, your majesty. Hell Wolf accepted the order and left. Taya was the last line of defense for the palace. He could not leave. Shrek Academy. At this moment the field was empty. The students were all brought to the teaching building by the teachers. Where are the people who belittled my strength clan? Come out. Tai Tan shouted in the center of the field. His voice was not soft. Almost the entire academy could hear him. Tang San and the others naturally heard him too. Feng Gu, where's Mr. Destroy? Why hasn't he appeared yet? Ma Hongjun asked anxiously from the side. Lin Feng had just told them that none of them had to go out. Thanos would take care of this matter. However, a few seconds had passed, and there was still no one on the field. What's the hurry? He should be here soon, Lin Feng said casually. He had just sensed that Hell Wolf had come again and was jumping around the academy. Lin Feng was wondering if he should beat him up too. At this moment, Tai Tan shouted again, What? Didn't you hear? These words were too arrogant. Lin Feng could not be bothered with Hell Wolf. He teleported, and Thanos' clone appeared in front of Tai Tan and the others. This way of appearing was really shocking. Not only was Tai Tan shocked, but the other 10 people were also shocked. Was that a soul skill? He had actually appeared in front of them without a sound. If it was a sneak attack, who would be able to block such a move from behind them? For a moment, the contempt in everyone's hearts was put away, and they all focused on the situation. It's you? You actually… Tai Tan came back to his senses and wanted to say something. However, Lin Feng shouted, Cut the crap. Chapter 280. Fighting 11 Soul Doloa alone might be an extremely difficult task for an ordinary titled Soul Master. Even Dugubo, who was currently at level 95, might not be able to defeat him. However, Lin Feng was the most suited for this kind of battle. As long as there weren't any special control-type Soul Masters, he could easily beat up 11 Soul Doloa Soul Masters. After all, the main reason why Soul Doloa could beat a titled Soul Master was because of the strength of the combined attacks of these Soul Masters. If Lin Feng couldn't be controlled, the combined attacks of these Soul Masters wouldn't be able to hit him at all. There was no need to use any soul skills. Lin Feng's physical fitness was already extremely strong. Soul Doloa Soul couldn't compare to him at all. He stretched his left hand forward, and a 2-meter-long golden-patterned white staff appeared in his hand. The moment he clenched his left hand, 9 soul rings appeared behind him. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 black. It was a very normal combination, and the simulation was very realistic. Lin Feng wouldn't reveal the true age of his soul rings. That would be too shocking. If word got out, the 3 rank 99 titled Soul Masters of Dolo World would be alarmed. A titled Soul Master of Doloa Soul Masters level was enough to teach Tai Tan and the others a lesson. Lin Feng held his staff horizontally and said, Show me your soul rings, or you won't have a chance later. How dare you? Tai Tan shouted, and his martial soul entered his body. Behind him, the 10 people were also enraged by Lin Feng's arrogance. They all had their martial souls enter their bodies, and their soul rings were revealed. 11 people, 88 soul rings. Most of them had perfect soul ring combinations. Of course, there were exceptions. 2 of them didn't have a 10,000-year 5th soul ring. However, this didn't matter. The aura of the 11 Soul Doloa Soul Masters soared into the sky. When combined, they were almost twice as strong as Lin Feng's aura. Oh, there's a Soul Master from the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan. I'll start with you first. Lin Feng made his move. Soul Bone Skill, Wind Invisibility. Lin Feng turned into a gust of wind and arrived in front of Yu Yuanqing in an instant. The combined pressure of the 11 people was like nothing to Lin Feng. Lin Feng's staff smashed out abruptly. Everyone didn't even have time to react. Yu Yuanqing only had time to use a defensive soul skill before the club smashed into his body. Boom! With a muffled sound, Yu Yuanqing was sent flying dozens of meters away and landed on the edge of the field. It was unknown if he was still alive. This scene caused everyone to be stupefied. How could Lin Feng be so powerful? Yu Yuanqing's soul power rank wasn't very high. He was only at rank 82, but as a member of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan, he wasn't inferior to the average rank 89 Soul Doloa Soul. However, Lin Feng was able to beat him to a pulp. This Lin Feng was simply too terrifying. However, everyone reacted quickly. When Lin Feng's staff fell, the surrounding Soul Doloa Soul Masters all attacked him with all their might. Among them, there was an auxiliary-type Soul Doloa Soul Master. His martial soul was a fan. He fanned his fan slightly, and it flew into the air. Small gusts of wind flew out of his fan before burrowing into everyone's bodies. Their attributes were boosted significantly, and in particular, their speed was almost doubled. Most importantly, he could fan at Lin Feng to reduce Lin Feng's speed and other attribute. He could even make Lin Feng feel a chill. This martial soul was quite interesting. Its auxiliary-type abilities were quite strong. Not only could it buff his teammates, but it could also restrict his enemies. It just so happened that this restriction was very useful to Lin Feng. His speed was instantly reduced by a significant amount. Originally, he had wanted to beat them without using any soul skills. However, it looked like that would be too difficult. With that in mind, a red soul ring lit up around Lin Feng's body. Soul skill, Power of Lightning. The staff in his hand instantly transformed into the storm battleaxe used by the lightning god. A violent bolt of lightning spread out in all directions with him at the center. Lin Juanfeng's debuff immediately disappeared from his body. His entire body was covered in lightning, and he stood there with a large axe in his hand, like a god of war. The 2 Soul Doloa Soul Masters closest to him had been electrocuted and lost their ability to fight. The others were also injured. 100,000-year soul skill was no joke. He hadn't even activated the power of the heavenly lightning. If it had been the heavenly lightning earlier, the 2 soul masters who were so close to him and weren't prepared would have been struck to death. Even so, Lin Feng's aura shocked the remaining Soul Doloa Soul Masters. Before they came, they thought that so what if he was a titled Doloa Soul Master? There were a total of 11 Soul Doloa Soul Masters. They could crush him to death. This time, they were sure that they would be able to beat him easily. However, reality gave them a cruel slap in the face. They had only fought for a short while, but 3 of them were severely injured and lost their ability to fight. The others were also injured. There were no healing-type soul masters among them. Lin Feng still looked very strong. They had no chance of winning. Use your martial soul true body. Tai Tan shouted. The martial soul true body was every soul master's ultimate move. After using it, there would be a period of weakness. Therefore, soul masters wouldn't use it under normal circumstances. Tai Tan had used it once, and he couldn't unleash his full strength now. He couldn't use his martial soul true body either, so he could only ask someone else to use it. Without hesitation, the other Soul Doloa Soul Masters used their martial soul true bodies. They didn't expect Lin Feng to be so strong, so they didn't have time to use their martial soul true bodies. Once they used their martial soul true bodies, the remaining few Soul Masters' auras became stronger. There were bears, martens, and mantises among their martial soul true bodies. It felt like a zoo. It was very lively. In a room not far away, everyone was watching this battle. Tang San's eyes were full of stars. Mr. Destroy is so strong. The 3 Doloa Soul Masters didn't even have a chance to react before they fell to the ground. Yes, Mr. Destroy is so strong. That big axe and the way he looks when he's covered in lightning. He's strong and handsome, Ning Rongrong exclaimed. Lin Feng nodded inwardly when he heard this. Little girl, you've broadened your horizons. Mr. Destroy is strong, but I see that the rest of them have all used their martial soul true bodies. It seems like they're going to use their full strength. If Mr. Destroy doesn't seize the opportunity, will he be beaten up too? As soon as Xiao Wu asked this, Lin Feng flicked her head. Xiao Wu, did you drink garlic-flavored milk tea? You should learn from Ning Rongrong. She's so much sweeter than you. I'm just guessing. Mr. Destroy is so strong. How can he be beaten up? If he's going to be beaten up, it must be the others, Xiao Wu said hurriedly. Lin Feng shook his head and didn't say anything else. This girl was just like Ma Hongjun. She would always walk a narrow path for some reason, and she never learned her lesson. Chapter 281. At this moment, in the middle of the field, a battle was about to break out. With the martial soul true body, a soul master's strength was greatly increased, but the consumption of his soul power was also rapidly increasing. After several people activated their martial soul true bodies, they all surrounded Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't panic at all, and he fought with ease. At this moment, he didn't use too much strength, and started to delay the battle. After all, the longer the battle, the more experience they would gain. There was no need for them to end the battle quickly. He even secretly healed the 3 people who had fallen to the ground so that they could join the battle again. The reason why he attacked like that just now was actually because he didn't like Yu Yuanqing, so he attacked him first. The other 2 people after that were just accidental injuries. In essence, Lin Feng still preferred a longer battle. Just like that, Lin Feng fought 11 people alone. The battle on the field was very exciting. The ground was flying, and the trees in the distance were broken from time to time. Pits appeared on the ground. This scene made Tang San and the others very worried. Ning Rongrong even asked, Feng Gu, do you think Mr. Destroy will lose? I didn't expect them to have a healing-type soul master who saved the 3 people who fell to the ground earlier. How can Mr. Destroy lose? Don't think that those guys have the advantage. In fact, it's just an illusion. Did you see Mr. Destroy get hit? Lin Feng said calmly. At this moment, the situation on the field looked very dangerous for Thanos, but in fact, it was just an illusion. He had deliberately led them to it. When everyone heard Lin Feng's words, they looked carefully for a while. Just as he said, Thanos wasn't hit from the beginning to the end. It looked dangerous, but in fact, those people had attacked the ground. I see. Then I'm relieved. Ning Rongrong heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, Flanders gritted his teeth and said, These guys are too much. They can't hit anyone, and they're still venting their anger on the field. This field was built with a lot of money. This time, it's been damaged. How much money will it cost to repair it? No. After the fight, they have to pay for it. It was fine to fight, but if they broke something, Flanders would be unhappy. Dolua's Continental Academy's field was different from the schools in his previous life. The field was the facade of the academy, so it would usually be renovated. The Shrek Academy's field had been previously sponsored by the Crown Prince, and Flanders had used it all to decorate the field. At this time, there were many potted plants and decorative sculptures. There was also a large fountain in the center of the field, and so on. These things had cost Flanders more than 100,000 yuan, and he had to fork out a lot of money himself. His goal was to decorate the Shrek Academy. At this moment, the fountain had been smashed to smithereens, and the surrounding decorations were scattered all over the ground. Without tens of thousands of gold coins, it was impossible to repair it. You don't have to worry about losing money. Tang San cleared his throat. As a family of blacksmiths, the House of Strength has earned quite a bit of money in Heavendo City. Tens of thousands of gold coins was a huge sum to an individual, but it was nothing to a power. Ningfengji's order of 5 million gold coins hadn't been delivered yet, and the Seven Treasures Glazed sect was the wealthiest power on the continent, but it was enough to show that these large powers had deep pockets. If he doesn't pay when the time comes, we'll go out and beat him up, Flanders said. Tang San. As for the others, they all laughed. They were all aware of Flanders's love for money. On the other hand, Lin Feng and Tang San looked at each other. Tang San knew that Lin Feng was telling him that he was going to meet Tai Tan alone later. At this moment, in the center of the field, Lin Feng and the others were getting fiercer and fiercer as they fought. The weapons in their hands had already changed many times. At this moment, they even turned into rope. Under the control of his soul power, they tied up all 11 of them, and then suddenly enlarged. Like a giant python, the 11 of them were tightly bound together. There was even lightning circling above them. Under such immense pressure, they couldn't even maintain their martial soul true bodies. I admit defeat. Tai Tan understood that Lin Feng had been toying with them from the beginning. With such a powerful martial soul, he was definitely a rank 95 super Doluo. All their efforts had been in vain. The rest of you scram. Tai Tan, you stay behind. With that, Lin Feng grabbed Tai Tan. As for the others, they were lifted up by the rope and flung by him. As if they were trash, the 10 of them were flung out. They were thrown right at the entrance of the Shrek Academy. His control of strength was impeccable. At the same time, a voice came from the entrance. The Shrek Academy is under the protection of me, Thanos. Anyone who dares to come in is a provocation, especially the little wolf hiding on the side. To others, this was just a shock. They knew that the Shrek Academy was protected by a big shot. But to Hellwolf, it was horrifying. What? That person inside had already discovered him? When he came over just now, he wanted to take a closer look, but then he felt the pressure of a titled Doluo from inside. That wasn't the golden iron triangle, but a real titled Dolu. To avoid being exposed, he didn't dare to get close. He just watched from afar. The more he watched, the more frightened he became. He saw how Lin Feng sent Tai Tan and the others flying. This guy was very strong, and his martial soul was even weirder. But if that was all, it wouldn't be a big deal. The main thing was that he had been discovered. He had been discovered from so far away? That was impossible. The only possibility was that he had been discovered before. And he didn't sense anything at all. That was what scared him the most. Although Taiyu was 2 ranks higher than him, in terms of perception, he was not as good as Hellwolf. If Lin Feng was hiding, the 2 of them wouldn't be able to find him at all. Unless they kept their soul power probing in the palace, they would be blind if Lin Feng sneaked into the palace. This was a huge threat. He had to report it to His Majesty. With that in mind, Hellwolf rushed to the palace. At the same time, in the Shrek Academy, Lin Feng said directly to Tang San, "Let's go out and talk to that guy." Tang San nodded and walked outside. Lin Feng followed him. This scene puzzled the others. They didn't understand the situation. Xiao Wu said, "The Clan of Strength used to be a subsidiary of the Heavenly Sect. Later, they broke away due to an accident. Now, Third Brother is trying to see if he can subdue them." Hearing the explanation, everyone was enlightened. Young Master is indeed the Young Master. If he can subdue them, they will be a powerful help. Sol Doluo was a strong person. Although Thanos could beat them like a child, that was because he was a super powerful titled Doluo. To them, it was still very strong. It could kill soul ancestors like them with a single finger. Everyone knew that in their hearts. Chapter 282. Lin Feng and Tang San went straight to the center of the field. The winner takes all. You can do whatever you want to me. I just hope that you can let the House of Strength go. Tai Tan was full of regret after he was caught. But there was no point in regretting now. If a titled battle pet warrior Doloa said that his family was trash, that was fine. For a titled battle pet warrior, the Soul Doloa family was trash. On the other hand, if you were not convinced, you could call someone to beat up a titled battle pet warrior Doloa. If you won, it would not be a big deal. Tai Tan was fighting for the honor of his family. Outsiders would think that his reason was justified. If a titled battle pet warrior Doloa lost and wanted to take revenge, that would not be tolerated by the world of soul masters. If Tai Tan lost, the price for provoking a titled battle pet warrior Doloa was death. To be honest, Tai Tan did not expect that Lin Feng would be so strong. Was he still a titled battle pet warrior Doloa? 1 against 11. That was too shocking. But the result was that he lost. No matter how shocked he was, it was useless. At the moment, his 10 good friends were thrown away. His son and grandson were running toward him like crazy. The only thing Tai Tan could do was to beg Thanos not to take out his anger on his family. However, Thanos did not say anything. Instead, he carried Tai Tan to the reception room. On the other side, Lin Feng and Tang San also turned and walked toward the reception room. Feng Gu, Mr. Destroy is so powerful. He carried Soul Doloa like a little chick, Tang San exclaimed. His voice was not low. At the moment, the distance between them was less than 100 meters. For a Soul Doloa, 100 meters was a short distance. Generally, any sound within 500 meters could not escape Soul Doloa's ears. Tai Tan, who was not far away, heard that. But he was so anxious that he did not have the heart to care. Soul Doloa is nothing. Titled Doloa is just the beginning. Lin Feng smiled and didn't dwell on this topic. Instead, he lowered his voice slightly and said, "When you go in later, reveal your identity. His life is in our hands right now. Think about what you want to say." "Yes." Tang San nodded. At the same time, he was thinking about what Lin Feng had said, titled Doloa is just the beginning. In Tang San's mind, he actually didn't have a clear idea of what a titled Doloa was. It was the same for Soul Doloa and Soul Sages. They were all very powerful soul masters who could crush him to death. Wasn't a titled Doloa already at the peak of the world of soul cultivators? Why did Feng Gu say that it was just the beginning? Could there be a soul master stronger than the titled Doloa? Or was there a more powerful way to cultivate than the titled Doloa? While he was thinking about this, the two parties arrived at the guest hall at almost the same time. Without stopping, the four of them went straight to a private room. Tai Tan obviously didn't go there willingly. He was carried away. At this moment, no one said anything. He couldn't figure out what was going on. Thanos didn't kill him and even brought him to the guest hall. Why? Tai Tan, who couldn't figure out the situation, didn't dare to say anything that would make Thanos unhappy. Hence, he kept quiet for a while. After a while, the four of them arrived in front of a treasure chest. Thanos directly threw Tai Tan in. "This is the young master of the Clear Sky sect. You can talk among yourselves." "Thank you, Mr. Destroy." Tang San bowed to Thanos. Lin Feng, who was at the side, felt that this was really interesting. He almost laughed out loud. However, Thanos's clone jumped up and directly turned to leave. In the battle just now, Lin Feng directly gained more than 30 million experience points. It wasn't any less than the experience points he gained from fighting a titled Soul Master, Doloa. However, this kind of opportunity was rare. Normally, these masters were scattered all over Heaven Do City. If Lin Feng fought them one by one, wouldn't it be troublesome? Moreover, if he fought them one by one, it would be too big of an impact and too arrogant. If all the high-level soul masters came to besiege Lin Feng, he would have no choice but to run. After all, there were too many masters in Heaven Do City. The 10 soul masters Doloa were only a part of them. If there was a powerful trapper inside, even if he could only control Lin Feng for a second, Lin Feng would definitely die under the combined attacks of so many people. Therefore, everything depended on the timing. This was a good opportunity to fight so many people at once. He would have to wait for the next opportunity. Seeing that Tang San's head was still lowered, Lin Feng patted him on the shoulder. Let's go in. Mr. Destroy has left. Will he suddenly go on a rampage? Tang San voiced out his concern. Thanos wasn't here at the moment. In any case, there was a Soul Master Doluo inside. It was very dangerous for him to go in. Don't worry. Mr. Destroy has been watching over here. If this guy dares to make a move, he's dead, Lin Feng said with a smile. His clone was just waiting in the woods nearby. If this Titan really wanted to make a move, he could teleport over and kill him with a punch. While the two of them were talking, Titan, who had been thrown into the room first, had a look of bewilderment on his face. He wasn't restrained at all, which meant that he could attack. Although he was injured and weak, he was confident that he could kill two juniors with one slap. However, this wasn't the main point. The main point was what Thanos had said just now. The young master of the heavenly sect? Was it true? Which one of the two people outside was the young master? Hadn't the heavenly sect retired? There hadn't been any disciples outside for more than 10 years, except for Heavenly Doluo, who had left the heavenly sect. This young master was Heavenly Doluo's son? Just as he was thinking about this, the door of the private room opened. Lin Feng and Tang San walked in together. While Tang San was looking at Titan, Titan was also looking at them. The first person he saw was Tang San. He had a delicate appearance, a pair of bright eyes, and was full of spirit. Then, he looked at Lin Feng, who was beside him. He was half a head taller than Tang San. He was also much more handsome and gave people a sense of friendliness. Although he stood there and didn't speak, he gave people a sense of gentleness and elegance. He also had a kind of confidence that came from the bottom of his heart. Comparing the two, if there really was a young master of the heavenly sect, Titan felt that Lin Feng must be that young master. As he thought, he asked Lin Feng, "Are you really the young master of the heavenly sect? Do you have proof?" Lin Feng, Tang San, Lin Feng was speechless. Titan actually thought that he was the young master of the heavenly sect. Tang San, who was at the side, felt helpless. It was a good opening, but the atmosphere was ruined by Titan's words. However, he still opened his left hand, and the heavenly hammer appeared in it. Heavenly hammer. As the top attack-type martial soul and one of the top-notch martial souls, the pressure on it was very heavy. After it was summoned, the surrounding air became heavier. On Titan's side, the suspicion on his face disappeared. He suppressed the agitation in his heart. He knelt down on one knee and cupped his hand. Titan greets the young master. Chapter 283. When Thanos said that Tang Hao was the future master of the Clear Sky sect, Titan believed him. After all, there was no reason for a titled battle pet warrior to lie to him. However, after seeing the Clear Sky hammer, Titan finally believed that the person in front of him was the future master of the Clear Sky sect. He was a little silly to have asked the wrong person, but that was not a big deal. He was very excited. Titan had been with Tang Hao for a while and had been saved by him several times. Because of that, he admired Tang Hao very much. He was not the only one. Because of Tang Hao's talent, who in the 4 major clans and the Clear Sky sect did not admire him. Doluo was a 44-year-old titled battle pet warrior. Such a super genius was very charismatic. That was why Titan was very loyal to Tang Hao. He asked again, "Is your father Tang Hao?" "That's right," Tang San said. "My teacher told me about the Clear Sky sect. I also know a little about what happened to my family back then. I won't beat around the bush with you. I founded a sect called the Tang sect. The tribe of strength should join the Tang sect." With that, Tang San hurriedly ran over and helped Titan up. Tang San knew that most of the tribe of strength were blacksmith. If they joined the Tang sect, the production of hidden weapons would increase greatly. Also, because of Tai Tan's loyalty, Tang San could teach them the Dark Heaven skill. His goal was to make the Tang sect prosperous on the Dolua continent, and the Tribe of Strength was his first step. In the future, he would develop the Tang sect into a superpower. The Tang sect? Is it a sect that the young master founded himself? Then the Clear Sky sect. Before he could finish, Tang San interrupted him. The Clear Sky sect is the Clear Sky sect, and the Tang sect is the Tang sect. The two have nothing to do with each other. The Tang sect is a force that I founded, and I am the only one left. The Tribe of Strength is willing to follow the young master. Tai Tan agreed without thinking much. There were many people in his clan who were still loyal to Tang Hao. Now that the young master had appeared, Tai Tan could go back and say that it would not be a problem for them to join the Tang sect. Tang San and Lin Feng didn't expect that things would be so easy. Tang San had a lot of excuses that he didn't use. But since the result was good, the process wasn't that important. In the end, Tai Tan, representing the Tribe of Strength, agreed to join Tang San's Tang sect. The details would have to be discussed in the future. Furthermore, Tai Tan would also compensate for the destruction of the school's field. Then there were the few people who had helped Tai Tan before, who needed to be dealt with by Tai Tan. Just as things at Shrek Academy were progressing in a positive direction. In the palace, the Snowy Night Emperor's expression was ugly. Hellwolf had just told him the gist of the situation. A powerful titled battle pet warrior, Doluo, had unknowingly entered Heaven Do City, and his concealment skills were exceptional. If such a person had ill intentions towards him, Shui Yi would be in great danger. Hence, when he heard this news, Shui Yi immediately ordered the 3 military districts around Heaven Do City to move closer to the city. He also ordered 10,000 high-ranking soul masters to be stationed in the city. On the other hand, he also wanted Tai Yi and Doluo to stay by his side to prevent any accident. In the past, although Tai Yi was in charge of the palace, he usually meditated in his own room and didn't follow Shui Yi all the time. Now that Tai Yi was arranged to stay by his side, it was obvious how nervous Shui Yi was. Of course, this kind of nervousness was normal. As the ruler of a country, his safety was very important, and he had to treat it seriously. Other than these 2 points, he also wanted his subordinates to continue investigating Shrek Academy and the titled battle pet warrior, Doluo. After the investigation was completed, he might send someone to visit the academy or gather some people to the palace for an exchange. An academy that had popped up out of nowhere had hidden powerful soul masters that he didn't know about. He had to be careful. When he thought about what the Martial Soul Hall had done in recent years, he even had a guess that the people in Shrek Academy were from the Martial Soul Hall. They had come to Heaven Do City to cause trouble. If this was really discovered, he would immediately bring people to raze this academy to the ground. If not, he had to find out more about this titled battle pet warrior, Doluo. Otherwise, he couldn't let an unknown titled battle pet warrior live. As Emperor Shui Yi issued one order after another, Heaven Do City was in an uproar. The atmosphere in the city was somber. However, this didn't affect the people in Shrek Academy. Tai Tan had already left, and everyone was discussing today's battle. Tang San went to find Lin Feng and asked him a question. Feng Gu, you said that titled battle pet warrior Doluo was just the beginning. Why is that? Tang San had been holding back for a while. He finally asked this question. Lin Feng smiled. Xiao San, do you think titled battle pet warrior Doluo is powerful? Yes. Mr. Destroy can defeat 10 Doluo by himself. He's so powerful. Tang San answered without hesitation. Would you believe me if I told you that Mr. Destroy could be killed in one move in front of a truly powerful battle pet warrior? Gods were on a completely different level from the soul masters on the continent of Doluo. Gods were fundamentally different. Those old antiques at rank 99 could borrow the power of God. People like them were called demigods. They could even kill a rank 98 titled battle pet warrior Doloa in one move. Therefore, what Lin Feng said was not wrong. Actually, there were many factors that could affect the strength of a titled battle pet warrior Dolu. If Lin Feng went all out with his original body, clone, and several clones, he would be able to defeat a titled battle pet warrior. In this case, he would be like a rank 98 titled battle pet warrior Doloa, without a 100,000-year soul ring but with a few soul bones. He would be like an ordinary rank 98 titled battle pet warrior Dolu. In the original book, Gold Crocodile Doloa, the second master of the Martial Spirit Palace, was in the same situation. Given his strength, if he encountered the Thousand Dao Flow, who attacked him as soon as they met, he would not even be able to teleport. After all, demigods had lived for so long. God knew what special skills they had. How is that possible? Mr. Destroy is so powerful. How could he be killed in one move? Tang San could not believe it. Xiao Wu was near the two of them. As soon as she heard the conversation, she immediately came over curiously. What do you mean by killed in one move? Zhu Zhuqing had been secretly observing Lin Feng. When she heard the commotion, she also came over. This action was too big. Ning Rongrong and the others were also attracted, and they all gathered around in a hubbub. Fortunately, the master and Flanders were comforting the students outside. Otherwise, the conversation would have attracted their attention. Feng Gu said that Mr. Destroy might be killed in one move. Tang San explained to everyone. He still did not believe it. The others also did not believe it. Even if it was Lin Feng who said it, they did not believe it immediately. Chapter 284. Lin Feng was indeed powerful. Everything he had said had been verified. However, Slayer Overlord's strength was extremely strong in everyone's eyes. He could even suppress Dugubo. The master had even told them that Thanos was one of the top 3 titled Doloa he had ever seen. With the master's words and the fact that they had seen, how could they believe that Thanos had been defeated in one move? Lin Feng smiled. He didn't refute. Instead, he asked, "Do you know about gods?" "I do." Ning Rongrong rushed to answer. "My father once said that if a titled Dolua could reach the 100th rank, he would become a god and gain eternal life. That had been a rumor for a long time. However, they had never seen anyone become a god after reaching the 100th rank. There weren't even any records about it, let alone seeing one." Dai Mubai frowned. "That's just a legend. I don't think there is a god. It's been thousands of years, and there hasn't been a single god in the records. How can you be so pessimistic? Maybe there hasn't been a god because there hasn't been a solution yet," Xiao Wu said. Ma Hongjun chimed in, "I also think that gods exist. It's just that we're too weak to see them." As Tang San listened to these discussions, he somewhat agreed with Dai Mubai's words. It was said that there were gods in this world. But as a matter of fact, he had never seen anyone worship gods in his life. Everyone was afraid of gods and believed that they were fictional. As a matter of fact, Lin Feng found it strange as well. Gods existed in Dolua's world, but they were only legends. In fact, there was nothing related to gods in culture. That wasn't right. The cities by the sea had many legends about the god of the sea. Some of the god of the sea's culture had influenced them. The main reason was that there was almost no culture about gods in the inland areas. Those were just rumors. Under such circumstances, people should be like Dai Mubai and not believe in God, but the truth was the opposite. Most people believed in God, which was very strange. However, there were many strange things in this world. Lin Feng didn't think too much about it and continued. Gods actually exist. If a soul master can obtain the inheritance of a god and pass the test, he can break through rank 100 and become a god. Titled Doloa is at level 99. They are working hard to become gods. The strongest among them can even use the power of gods to kill titled Doloa. This. Everyone's faces were filled with shock, and they were speechless. Lin Feng's words had really refreshed their worldview. Whether it was the power of a rank 99 titled Doloa, or the power of a god, or the divine seat, these were all things that they had never thought of before. Ning Rongrong, in particular, was confused. As far as she could remember, the strongest titled Doloa on the continent should be Kinduru Ashen from the Seven Treasures Glaze sect. That was a titled Doloa at level 96. The two from the Martial Spirit Palace were only at level 95. Haotian Doloa was a genius, but Dusty Heart had said that he should be at level 95 at best. Ning Rongrong didn't know why Dusty Heart was so certain. But from what Ning Rongrong had heard, there shouldn't be a stronger titled Doloa on the continent. If there was, then not even Dusty Heart knew about it. Feng Gu, how did you know? Tang San asked. No one had ever mentioned this before. Tang San had never heard of this from Master Dusty Heart. It was hard to believe. The others stared at Lin Feng, eager to know the answer. Mr. Destroy told me. He's at level 98. Lin Feng said. What? 98. Oscar's lips were trembling. He couldn't even speak clearly. The others stared with their eyes wide open. They were breathing heavily. Titled Doloa was already shocking enough for them. Now, there was a titled Doloa at level 98. Their hearts were about to give out. After a long while, Ma Hongjun swallowed his saliva and said, So, Mr. Destroy is going to become an immortal soon? According to Lin Feng, one could become a demigod at level 99. Thanos was not far from becoming an immortal at level 100. Zhu Zhuqing noticed the details in Lin Feng's words. Feng Gu, what's the deal with the immortal's legacy and test? That kind of knowledge couldn't be found anywhere else. There were no records, and the teachers didn't know either. All of them were thirsty for knowledge. Most of the gods' inheritances on the Doloa continent have disappeared, or rather, they have been hidden and haven't been discovered. As long as you can find a god's inheritance land, God will give you a test based on your aptitude and strength. Pass the most difficult test, and you can become an immortal. Otherwise, it's too difficult to become an immortal without a test. Lin Feng said. In fact, there were two ways to become an immortal. One was to accept the immortal's legacy. However, the strength of the immortal's legacy depended on the immortal's legacy. If the immortal's legacy was too weak, the immortal would be weak. If the legacy was strong enough, the immortal would be strong. The other way was to become an immortal yourself. This kind of immortal's legacy was usually very strong. It couldn't be weak. Lin Feng remembered that the sea god had unified all the oceans on the continent of Doloa before he became an immortal. He became an overgod directly and was extremely powerful. In the original novels on the continent of Doloa, Tang San and the others had achieved the immortal's legacy. They didn't walk the path of becoming an immortal themselves. So that's how it is. Everyone understood the new knowledge and had an expression of understanding. Feng Gu, Mr. Destroy is so good to you. He even told you such secrets, Ma Hongjun said enviously. Am I not good to tell you all this now? Lin Feng glanced at him. Speaking of which, this feeling was quite interesting. He had a powerful background, and he could use him as an excuse for everything he said. Of course it's good. Feng Gu is handsome. Feng Gu is V587. Feng Gu. Ma Hongjun quickly praised him. After listening for a while, Lin Feng waved his hand and said, All right, I'm telling you all this mainly to let you know that the title of Doloa is nothing. That's just the beginning. Now you have to aim higher. That's to become an immortal. Become an immortal? Everyone sucked in a cold breath. They had never thought of this term before. Lin Feng was standing in front of them now, and they felt a little unfamiliar. Is this goal too low? Lin Feng shook his head. I think it's low too. Why don't we set it higher? This is low. Everyone was shocked. At the same time, They were curious about how the goal could be higher. At this moment, Lin Feng said, "Your new goal, which is harder than becoming an immortal, is to surpass me." Everyone, ah 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 ah. Chapter 285. When Lin Feng set this goal for everyone, everyone was dumbfounded. But soon, they came to their senses. Surpassing Lin Feng was much harder than becoming a god. Becoming a god was a fixed goal. If you worked hard, you would slowly get closer to it. Surpassing Lin Feng was a dynamic goal. When you were improving, Lin Feng was also improving, and his speed was faster than yours. By the time you became a god, Lin Feng might have already become a god. Under such circumstances, you might never reach this goal. However, everyone knew that Lin Feng had specially said this to encourage them, to strive towards him. Not long after, Flanders and the others returned. They wanted Lin Feng to invite Thanos over so that they could properly entertain and thank him. Lin Feng couldn't be bothered to do this, so he just found a reason to brush them off. After all, experts had to be a little more mysterious. In the next few days, Shrek Academy was as peaceful as ever. However, in Heavendo City, it was a little more serious. There were more patrol teams on the streets, and they patrolled more frequently. Especially near the Martial Spirit Hall, there were even Soul Masters standing guard. Tang San often went out these days, mainly to the Clan of Strength. After his identity as the young master was confirmed, the entire Clan of Strength joined the Tang sect. Recently, Tang San was preparing to transform the Clan of Strength into the Tang sect. This morning, Lin Feng prepared to go to the Great Soul Arena to fight as usual. As soon as he opened the door, Xiao Wu, Zhu Zhuqing, and Ning Rongrong were standing outside. On Xiao Wu's shoulder, Xiao Ying was also looking at Lin Feng with his head tilted. Tang San went out every day for the past few days. At first, Xiao Wu was used to following him, but Tang San was too busy and bored. Xiao Wu didn't go anymore, but hugged Xiao Ying every day. "Feng Go, you go to the Great Soul Arena every day, take us with you. I haven't experienced the feeling of a martial soul fusion skill in a long time," Ning Rongrong said with a look of anticipation. The feeling of endless power on one's body and no enemy being able to block one's punch was really intoxicating for an auxiliary-type soul master. Every auxiliary had the heart of a main controller. There was some truth in this saying. "Yeah, Feng Go, let's form a duo. That martial soul fusion skill is too strong," Xiao Wu also said. Although Brother Feng's naming skills weren't that great, the power of a martial soul fusion technique was indescribable. "That won't do, the martial soul fusion skill is too strong. It's useless for you to go to the Great Soul Arena." Lin Feng shook his head. In the Great Soul Arena, he was multitasking and controlling his avatars, which consumed a lot of his mental energy. Lin Feng didn't want to play with them anymore. After thinking for a while, he said, "Didn't I teach you before? As long as your soul power control is accurate enough, you too can also use a martial soul fusion skill." Hearing this, Xiao Wu stomped her foot. "This is too difficult. Third brother and I have experimented dozens of times, but every time it's a simple fusion. We can't reach the power of a martial soul fusion skill at all. Generally speaking, fusing two people's strength together and then releasing it multiplied, this was the weakest martial soul fusion skill. And with the mutual influence of martial soul fusion, soul power control, tacit understanding between the two, soul power rank, and other factors, Lin Feng defined it as a numerical value, called the martial soul fusion value. If this value was 2, it meant that you could use the weakest martial soul fusion skill, which meant that you could double the combined strength of the two people. Simply put, the martial soul fusion value represented how many times the strength of the two people's martial soul fusion skill could be released. A martial soul fusion skill below 2 times was not called a martial soul fusion skill, and the upper limit of strength was theoretically unlimited. However, after Lin Feng experimented many times, he found that the limit was a little more than 9 times. So in the end, Lin Feng temporarily set the upper limit of this martial soul fusion value to 10. Moreover, the size of this martial soul fusion value was relative. For example, Lin Feng and Ning Rongrong's martial soul fusion skill. For Lin Feng, if he took the lead and used the martial soul fusion skill, his martial soul fusion value might not even reach 1. Because Ning Rongrong was too weak, and the difference in soul power rank was too great. On the other hand, for Ning Rongrong, her martial soul fusion skill would have a martial soul fusion value of around 7. 6. Why was it only so much? The reason was simple. Ning Rongrong's body could only support this much. If it was any more, Ning Rongrong would be injured, and she might even explode and die. Furthermore, during the martial soul fusion skill, Lin Feng's output of soul power had to be compressed to a level that Ning Rongrong could withstand, and he had to control it accurately and steadily. After using it, Lin Feng didn't have to care about it. That's right, he didn't have to care about it at all. It was like a martial soul fusion skill that didn't need to be maintained. This kind of thinking, in Grandmaster's eyes, was simply a brand new martial soul fusion skill. It was too inconceivable. This was because, in a traditional martial soul fusion skill, both parties had to maintain their martial souls at all times when they unleashed this martial soul. Just like the Golden Iron Triangle, the leader was Grandmaster. His physical fitness wasn't good, so when he controlled the Golden Holy Dragon, the main pressure was borne by Flanders and Lu Erlong. During this period, the three of them could only stay in place without moving. If someone launched a sneak attack, they would be finished. In the original work, Zhu Zhuqing and Dai Mubai's martial soul fusion skill was the same. Although the two could move, they were connected as one and couldn't be separated. In Lin Feng's view, this martial soul fusion skill was still too backward, although it had its merits. According to his idea, as long as the control of soul power was strong enough, Xiao Wu and Tang San could go to the Great Soul Arena together and use 2 martial soul fusion skills at the same time. One was led by Tang San, and the other was led by Xiao Wu. If the two were separated, their combined strength could be at least 10 times. As long as they mastered this martial soul fusion skill, in the Great Soul Arena, a dual soul ancestor would have a high chance of beating a dual soul emperor. Take Chi and I have tried more than 10 times, but we didn't reach the standard you mentioned. At this time, Ning Rongrong also said, more than 10 times are not enough. You are different from Xiao Wu. The most important thing now is to improve your control of soul power. Although you have practiced for half a year, it is still not enough. After saying that, Lin Feng looked at Xiao Wu. Girl, you must have been lazy again. When your third brother was with me a few days ago, he was already able to use a martial soul fusion skill. That's because Feng Ge, your martial soul, is special. Xiao Wu muttered. You only know how to talk back. That time, Xiao San and I were together, he was the one who led. I didn't even use soul power. If you can do it, then come and try it with me. With that, Lin Feng summoned the immeasurable flower. Let's try it. Xiao Wu snorted. Chapter 286. Lin Feng simulated the strength of a rank 49 soul ancestor. His aura wasn't weak, and Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing were forced to take a few steps back. Feng Ge was so strong. Was he already a soul king? This was what the two of them were thinking. However, Xiao Wu directly guessed that Lin Feng was already a soul emperor. After all, Lin Feng was an old master of concealment. Although Shrek's 7 monsters knew each other, they were still concealing themselves when they were outside. Perhaps Dai Mubai, Ning Rongrong, and the others didn't have a deep awareness. If they could conceal themselves, then they would. If they couldn't, then it was fine. But when Tang San and Xiao Wu went outside, they were nothing more than rank 29 soul grandmasters from start to finish. As for Lin Feng's strength, not to mention the Shrek Academy, Even when they were in Nodding City, the two of them couldn't see through him. Xiao Wu guessed that Lin Feng was at the 5th level of concealment. That was the highest level of concealment. He was concealing more than half of his strength. Furthermore, he was one of the best. Lin Feng was a soul ancestor on the surface, but in reality, he was already a soul emperor. Of course, everything was just a guess. Lin Feng had never told them the specifics. Soft bone rabbit possession. Feng Go, watch carefully. I will definitely succeed. Although she was extremely nervous, Xiao Wu was still full of vigor. Wasn't it just a martial soul fusion skill? She would definitely be able to use it today. Wait. Lin Feng placed the immeasurable flower in front of Xiao Wu and hovered there. The soul power on it was unrestrained, allowing her to better use her martial soul fusion skill. This scene looked very simple, but in reality, the control of soul power required was ridiculously high. At this moment, Xiao Wu and the others couldn't see anything because they hadn't practiced to that level. They would know in the future. Xiao Wu, you're the best. She cheered herself on. After that, Xiao Wu let out a light breath and immediately let her soul power come into contact with Lin Feng's immeasurable flower. The method that Lin Feng had taught him back then was very simple, and that was to find the other party's soul power undulations, then imitate the same undulations and maintain a stable link. At this time, the two martial souls will be connected to each other. In this situation where the soul power fluctuations are stable, you will be able to release a martial soul fusion skill. With so many steps, as long as there was a single mistake, the martial soul fusion skill would fail. In other words, if a certain part of the soul skill was weakened, the power of the soul skill would decrease, and it wouldn't be able to reach the basic level of a fusion skill. Previously, Xiao Wu and Tang San had tried dozens of times, and most of them failed. However, they still managed to perform it once, but the power was too weak. It was not even comparable to one attack from the two of them. This time, Xiao Wu said that she could succeed, but that was only because she was unconvinced. However, with this unconvinced mentality, she quickly found Lin Feng's soul power undulations. In the end, she was a senior who had practiced for several years, so she still had the basic skills. Very quickly, she imitated the same soul power undulations as Lin Feng. After that, she began to connect with Lin Feng's immeasurable flower. At this time, it was the most difficult time to control one's soul power. This was because if the martial souls were not very similar, there would be a lot of resistance in the middle, and one would need to use soul power to overcome them one by one. This was also the main problem that Xiao Wu and Tang San faced. Although their martial souls did not conflict, they were not very similar, so it was not easy to perform. But this time, the moment she connected with Lin Feng's martial soul, Xiao Wu felt that the previous obstruction had directly disappeared. As smooth as silk, Xiao Wu's martial soul seemed to have directly arrived on top of the immeasurable flower's petals. Steady, steady. Xiao Wu wholeheartedly controlled her soul power undulations. Then, according to the soul power trajectories of their martial souls, she released the martial soul fusion skill. At this moment, because of the release of the soul skill, the pressure on Xiao Wu increased greatly. She did her best to maintain the stability of her soul power undulations. Just like this, the two identical soul powers gushed out along the trajectories. A rainbow-colored light enveloped Xiao Wu and Lin Feng's bodies, strengthening their physical qualities. When the two of them controlled the martial soul fusion skill separately, the image they released was different. Furthermore, because of the difference in soul power control, there would be some slight changes. This time, the martial soul fusion skill that Xiao Wu released was a status-type soul skill. Lin Feng sensed the strength of her soul power, which was about 3 times stronger. This also meant that this was a qualified martial soul fusion skill, and Xiao Wu had successfully released it. Yeah! Xiao Wu shouted excitedly. However, because she was happy, she lost the supply of soul power, and the soul skills effect directly disappeared. Because it was her first time using it, it took a long time, about 10 seconds. Furthermore, she couldn't cut off the soul power connection in time after using it, causing her to lose connection due to her excitement. Other than that, there were still many small details that were not done well. However, as it was her first time using it, it was considered pretty good. Don't be happy too early. My martial soul is rather special. It is very compatible with other martial souls. As long as one's soul power control is strong enough, they can use it. And when you use martial soul fusion skills with other soul masters, it will be much harder than when you use them with me. Other than soul power control, more practice is also very important. Unless one's soul power control was as strong as Lin Feng's and could quickly fuse with anyone he met, long-term practice was more effective than soul power control. Feng Gu, let's practice a few more times. The first success gave Xiao Wu a lot of confidence. You can go find Take Chi or Rongrong to practice. Your martial soul compatibility with them is much higher than your third brother's. If you practice today, you might be able to use it. Lin Feng dismissed her with a sentence. He couldn't be bothered to practice alone with Xiao Wu. This girl would pester him to go shopping when the time came. It would be very troublesome. Really? Xiao Wu looked at the two people at the side, her eyes shining. Of course. When practicing, she would ask Xiao Ao for a few sausages, and then let Rongrong activate her soul power amplification. This would be much easier. The stronger one's soul power was, the easier it would be to practice soul power control. Don't look at how Ning Rongrong and the others learned soul power control so many years later than Tang San and Xiao Wu. When they reached Soul Ancestor, their efficiency would be greatly increased. Great, Rongrong, Take Chi, let's go and find Oscar to get the sausages. Xiao Wu excitedly pulled the two of them away. As for the plan of the three of them pulling Lin Feng to the Great Soul Arena at the beginning? Xiao Wu, what plan? Isn't the plan to practice martial soul fusion skills? Looking at the three of them leaving, Lin Feng shook his head and cast his gaze in the direction of the research building. Speaking of which, these days, the master didn't care much about the students. He was indulging in the business of soul tools. He was already 50 years old, and it was impossible for him to improve his strength quickly. Studying soul tools was another way for him to find the meaning of the latter half of his life. He was very interested in this. He even studied it with Xiao San before. Xiao San also seemed to be studying the combination of hidden weapons and soul skills. The two of them made do with each other. Chapter 287. Curious, Lin Feng sneaked into the research building to see what the Grandmaster was busy with. Lin Feng left after a few minutes. The Grandmaster was still in the initial stages and was studying theory. After all, soul tools were new knowledge to the Grandmaster. If he didn't have theory as a foundation, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Perhaps in the future, the Grandmaster would be able to do something. But for now, Huoyu Hao couldn't see anything. After leaving the academy, Lin Feng ran straight to the Soul Dueling Arena to start today's Soul Duel. Even in Heaven Do City, his reputation as the Avengers was extremely resounding. Complete victory. No losses. Purple Gold rank team. They would be promoted to Sapphire rank if they won a few more rounds. They were the first Soul Ancestor team in Heaven Do City, no, in the entire continent. Under such circumstances, countless people wanted to get in touch with the Avengers. Some were curious, some wanted to invest, some wanted to recruit, and some wanted to find trouble. This was very normal. This was how it was when one became famous. The word benefit tugged at everyone's heartstrings. However, none of them had actually talked to the Avengers, because these masked people would disappear directly shortly after leaving the Great Soul Arena, the kind that suddenly disappeared into thin air. No one had been able to come into contact with them yet. At the same time, the Snowy Night Emperor couldn't find out where the Shrek Academy's titled Dolua came from after a few days of investigation. In the end, he made a decision. He sent someone to invite the Shrek Academy's Golden Triangle into the palace. If they came, he would find out the titled Dolua's motive. If it wasn't a big deal, then everyone would be happy. If it wasn't, then they wouldn't come at all. If that was the case, then things would be even easier. He could just send the army to destroy the Shrek Academy. It was just a commoner Soul Master Academy. At most, there would be some children from small noble families. Most of the others were commoners. It wasn't a big deal. Even if there was a conflict in the end, the losses wouldn't be great. After making these plans, the Heaven Do Empire's huge machinery started to operate. The army and the masters of the various nobles were all on standby. The messenger that Shui Yi had sent to invite them was Prince Shui Xing. A grand prince had personally gone to invite someone to the imperial palace. If the other party didn't come, then there must be something wrong. Regardless of whether it was the martial spirit hall or something else, they would all be killed. Just like that, Shui Xing personally came to the field of the academy with a large contingent of people from the imperial palace. At this time, the sports field was being renovated. They had to take a detour to get in, which was very undignified. However, Flanders discovered the situation in advance and came out to greet them. In the end, things went very smoothly. Flanders and the others had no idea why the imperial palace had summoned them. At this moment, they were all flattered. After giving some instructions, the three of them changed their clothes and followed Shui Xing to the palace. Because the matter was kept secret, Shui Xing didn't know what was going on. Flanders couldn't ask anything even if he wanted to. Just like that, the three of them came to the palace and had a friendly conversation. At first, the masters didn't know how to react. It was an honor to be welcomed by Shui Yi himself. The more they spoke, the more they realized that the Snowy Night Emperor was wary of His Majesty's Slayer Overlord and wanted to find out what his intentions were. The master hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, please don't worry. His Majesty Thanos is only helping our academy fend off someone's provocation. He won't be staying in the city. He has already left." Hearing this, Shui Yi looked at Hellwolf, who nodded at him. Earlier, he had secretly followed Shui Xing into the Shrek Academy. He didn't sense Thanos' aura. It should be like what the master said. Thanos wasn't in the city. Hearing this, Shui Yi breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he said, "I wonder which force this Thanos is from? I've never heard of him on the continent. Is he a hidden master? Dean Flanders, can you introduce me to him?" Shui Yi fired off a series of questions like a cannon. Flanders and the other two didn't show any impatience. He smiled and said, "Your Majesty, we don't know which force Mr. Destroy is from. He should be a hidden master. As for introducing him, we don't have a way to contact him." The master continued, "That's right. Mr. Destroy helped us because we formed a good relationship with him in the Star Do Great Forest. Now we're even." Lin Feng had told them that Thanos didn't want to be disturbed by anyone, not even the Emperor of the Heaven Do Empire. That was why the masters answered in this way. Lu Erlong listened quietly. She had a bad temper and wasn't good with words. Usually, when they were outside, it was the master and Flanders who talked. Even. Shui Yi took a sip of wine and smiled. "I heard that there's a student called Lin Feng in your academy. He's related to Thanos. I want to make him an earl. What do you think?" The power of an entire country was terrifying. He heard that Lin Feng was related to Thanos from a milk tea shop near Shrek Academy. The owner of the shop said that he heard it from two girls. One of them had a scorpion braid and was cute. She was a regular customer of the milk tea shop and a student of Shrek Academy. The other girl had a good figure and was a little cold. She was also a student of Shrek Academy. When they were buying milk tea, they talked about Lin Feng and Thanos. The shop owner accidentally overheard them. The title of Earl is so precious. Lin Feng is only a student. I'm afraid it's inappropriate. Flanders's eyes widened. This was the title of Earl. There were only a few dukes in the entire empire. Below dukes were marquises. This title could only be bestowed upon those who made great contributions. Below that was the title of Earl. Lin Feng didn't do anything and he was given the title of Earl. Wasn't that too generous? I think it's fine. Giving such a genius the title of Earl represents the Heaven Do Empire's support for geniuses. Shui Yi smiled. Your Majesty's reward is so precious. If it were me, I would definitely accept it. However, the title of Earl is still a personal matter. We can't accept this. We need Lin Feng to agree personally, the master said cautiously. Although the title of Earl was precious, sometimes it was also a kind of shackle. With the title of Earl, in a sense, one was considered a member of the royal family. While enjoying benefits, they also had to bear responsibilities. This was a very important matter. The master and the others couldn't make the decision for Lin Feng. Yes, you're right. We still need his agreement. Shui Yi smiled. I wonder if Dean Flanders can recommend this genius student, Lin Feng? Chapter 288. When the master and the others came out of the palace, they all had worried expressions on their faces. The reason they were invited was that the students were too outstanding, so Emperor Shui Yi wanted to reward them and give them the title of Honorary Academy. On the surface, this matter seemed good, but in fact, they all knew why Shui Yi had summoned them. It was because of the battle in Heaven Do City, especially the battle between titled Dolu. It was really unsettling. Because of this, the Snowy Night Emperor looked for them to inquire about Thanos' overlord. Now, Shui Yi wanted to reward Lin Feng and give him the title of Earl. Obviously, he wanted to rope him in. This matter was not easy to deal with. It was wrong to accept it, but it was also wrong not to accept it. It was better to tell Lin Feng about this matter first and see what he planned. Shui Yi said that it was best to give a definite answer today, at the latest tomorrow. It seemed that the other party was very anxious. The master and the others were worried because they were afraid that Shui Yi would do something. After returning to the academy, Flanders immediately went to look for Lin Feng, but he didn't see him in the academy. After asking around, it turned out that he had gone to the Soul Dueling Arena. The Soul Dueling Arena was too big and there were many Soul Masters. Even if they knew Lin Feng's name, it was very difficult to find him. Therefore, after knowing that he was in the Soul Dueling Arena, Flanders and the others didn't look for him and just waited quietly. In the afternoon, Lin Feng returned. Just now in the Soul Dueling Arena, he was multitasking and fought an exciting team battle. At this moment, he was a little tired and was ready to go back to sleep. However, when he walked to the gate, Lin Feng saw something unusual. There were actually a few royal guards at the gate. Lin Feng asked around for a while, and quickly found out what was going on. In the morning, Prince Xuexing personally came and brought Flanders to the palace. Lin Feng had thought about this before. After all, Doloa the Hellwolf had discovered the situation back then. However, Shui Yi acted too quickly. He didn't do anything and didn't get in the way of anyone, but he was already causing trouble. Just as Lin Feng was in a daze, an unfamiliar Soul Master walked over. He was a Soul Emperor. It was a middle-aged woman who was quite pretty. She came over and took out a letter. His Highness gave this to you. After saying that, she didn't wait for Lin Feng to say anything and left. Her purpose was only to deliver the letter. Your Highness? Xuexinghe? With that thought in mind, Lin Feng opened the envelope and took a look. Indeed, it was from Xuexinghe. The letter was very short, with only a few sentences. The gist of it was that the Snowy Night Emperor wanted to deal with Thanos and wanted him to pass on the message. It seemed that Xuexinghe was using him as a mouthpiece for Thanos. That wasn't a big deal. The main thing was that the Snow Knight Emperor was being way too cautious. Was he going to deal with Lin Fan just like that? The number of soul cultivators in Heaven Do City had increased over the past few days. Were they going to surround and kill him? This reaction was a little too big. For a moment, Lin Feng wanted to assassinate Shui Yi and let Xueqinghe take over. That would save the Heaven Do Empire a lot of trouble. However, Lin Feng knew that he couldn't kill Xueqinghe. There were too many guards in the palace. Putting aside the 2 titled Doluo, there were at least 10 soul Doluo and dozens of soul sages. If so many people surrounded Lin Fan, he wouldn't be able to escape as long as they used special soul skills to restrict him. Furthermore, as an empire with a long history, Lin Feng didn't believe that this was all they had. They might have hidden trump cards that they hadn't revealed yet. In the original novel, the Heaven Do Empire even had the sea god's divine weapon. They had a very deep foundation. Oh yes, there was another important point. There should be a special formation or treasure in the palace. Previously, he used his avatar to sneak into the palace to take a look. However, he lost contact not long after he entered. He didn't go missing. It was just that his range of control was greatly reduced. Outside, Lin Feng's avatar could only move about 4 kilometers away. His avatar could only move about 2 kilometers away. If he entered the palace, this distance would be reduced by 10 times. This distance was too short. Because of this, Lin Feng didn't enter the palace for safety reasons. After reading the letter, Lin Feng burned it. After that, he returned to the academy. He didn't want to bother with Shui Yi for now. If he angered him, Lin Feng would beat him up a few times outside the palace and then run away. Let's see if he still dares to oppose me after a few more times. After returning to the academy, Lin Feng bumped into Zhao Wuji, who was about to leave. Then, he was dragged to the principal's office. At this moment, Flanders, Lu Erlong, and the Grandmaster were waiting there. After Lin Feng entered, the Grandmaster came up to him and said, "Little Feng, how are you today?" "Not bad. I just feel a little sleepy," Lin Feng said casually. "Today, Shui Yi of the Heaven Do Empire summoned us." Flanders went straight to the point. "When we were summoned, His Majesty said that he thinks highly of you and wants to make you a count. What do you think?" "Make me a count?" Lin Feng was stunned. He didn't understand what was going on. He thought that Flanders and the others were summoned to the palace to give them a beating. Why was he being made a count now? "That's right. His Majesty said that he wants to make you a count himself. This is a treatment only soul sages get. After that, you can have a mansion in Heaven Do City. You can also choose a piece of land outside the city as your fief." To be honest, the title of Count was quite a high noble title. To a commoner, the highest noble title was the title of Count after performing meritorious deeds. As for the higher noble titles, they were usually treated like relatives of the emperor. A count would have a fief and a mansion in the city. The mansion would even be guarded by soul sages. The fief outside the city would also be able to recruit soldiers. Shui Yi wasn't afraid of having an army in his fief. No matter how many soldiers there were, they couldn't compare to him. These soldiers could also strengthen Heaven Do City's defenses. This was a good thing. If he became a count, it would be much easier for him to become an official in the palace. Furthermore, he would have more authority. "Count, I won't enter the palace, and I won't listen to any summons in the future. If you agree to these 2 conditions, I can accept the title of Count," Lin Feng said. Lin Feng knew a little about the empire's nobility system. If he became a count, he would have a lot of authority, but he would also have to obey the empire. If the empire summoned him, he would have to go. If he didn't go, he would be considered a traitor. Under such circumstances, the empire would punish him, and it would be a legitimate one. Lin Feng wasn't interested in this method. If he had to fulfill his obligations, he could refuse. After all, he didn't really need it. However, if it was directly given to him, he could accept it. After all, it wasn't good to have someone give you something. A piece of legal land was quite interesting. It would be fun to play with it as a game. Chapter 289. Well, it would be a miracle if a count like that could appear, the master said. Not going to the palace to accept the title and not listening to the summons? Wasn't that a free reward? What was interesting was that the master actually thought it was possible. After all, Lin Feng had Thanos' support. If Emperor Shui Yi really wanted to show his goodwill to Thanos, it would be acceptable. If that was the case, Lin Feng could accept it. Without any restrictions, the title would be very tempting. The only thing they were worried about was that Shui Yi would refuse, or even get angry. Things would take a turn for the worse if that happened. Will His Majesty allow such a title to appear? Flanders was worried. We were called in because Mr. Destroy and those people had a fight in the city. This is against the rules of the Heaven Do City. What if we ask for too much and something happens? Flanders was worried that something would happen to the Shrek Academy. After all, the Shrek Academy was too weak in the face of the major forces. Tang San had been easily taken away. They had searched everywhere but no one had helped them. The nobles had ignored them and pretended not to know anything. Under such circumstances, they knew that being weak was a sin. At this time, he said this to ask Lin Feng if Thanos would protect them. It doesn't matter if he allows it or not. I can give up the title. I don't really care. After a brief moment of contemplation, Lin Feng said, Master Mia won't be staying in Heaven Do City forever, but he won't leave me in the lurch. On top of that, he told me that he's already subdued the poison Doluo, and that he'll be sending him to protect me. This. The three masters and Zhao Wuji all had their mouths agape. What did they just hear? A titled battle pet warrior named Doluo was going to be Lin Feng's bodyguard? It was important to note that titled Doluo were one of the most powerful individuals on the entire continent. However, they were now acting as someone's bodyguard. They did not know how to describe this situation. Even His Majesty Shui Yi did not receive such treatment. Looking at the shocked people, Lin Feng's lips curled into a smile that said, I have a strong backer. Dugu Bo had been on leave for a few days, and it was time for him to return to work. Since he was going to stay at the Shrek Academy for a long time, it would be a good idea to transfer Dugu Bo over to be his bodyguard. That was the poison Doluo he was talking about. He wasn't the strongest among the titled battle pet warriors, but he was the best at dealing with groups of people. If he unleashed his poison mist at full force, all the people in a city would die. It was simply terrifying. If Lin Feng and Poison Doluo worked together, they would not have to worry about being besieged. When the poison mist sprayed out, no one would dare to come into contact with it unless they were backed up by a powerful soul master. Lin Feng had asked Dugu Bo to come over mainly as a deterrent. In the city, who would dare to fight Dugu Bo? Both Doluo and Dugu Bo were related to the Shrek Academy. Even if His Majesty Shui Yi wanted to do something, he would have to think twice. Lord Mia is really strong. After a moment of shock, Grandmaster finally managed to squeeze out these words from his mouth. He had to admit that Tang San's father, Haotian Doluo, was strong enough, but he could not make another titled battle pet warrior so obedient. At this time, Slayer Lord directly asked Dugu Bo to be Lin Feng's bodyguard. It was too awesome. So, do you want to go to the palace again? Lin Feng asked, referring to Dugu Bo's knighthood. Flanders came back to his senses and said, No. There are people from the palace outside the academy. We will tell them our decision. I see. Then there's nothing else for me to do here. I'm going to sleep. With that, Lin Feng left. The four people looked at each other, still in shock. A titled battle pet warrior Doluo's bodyguard. They found it hard to believe. Lin Feng fell asleep soon after he left. Multitasking was too tiring. Sleeping was the best way to recover. As for Dugubo, he could call him at any time. When he woke up, he would go over and call him. While Lin Feng was asleep, His Majesty Shui Yi was informed of his decision. This Lin Feng doesn't know what's good for him. He's a commoner and he's so picky about the knighthood. He's delusional. His Majesty Shui Yi was furious. If it weren't for the fact that Dugubo was related to a titled battle pet warrior Doluo, he wouldn't have even heard of Lin Feng's name. After all, at his position, the world was different from normal people. Anyone who could catch his eye was already very impressive. Your Majesty, this Thanos might be a rank 95 titled battle pet warrior Doluo, Tai Yi said seriously. The only person who's directly related to him is Lin Feng. In Tai Yi's opinion, since they didn't know Thanos' identity, they had to avoid making enemies. Their first choice was to be friendly. In the Heaven Do Empire, the palace would invest in talented soul masters who had the potential to become soul masters or titled battle pet warriors Dolu. If they could rope them in, they would. If they couldn't, they had to be friendly. Taiya and Hellwolf had been like this. Dugubo had also been roped in by Prince Xuexing. He had been given enough benefits before he became Xuexing's guest. It was because of this foresight that the Heaven Do Empire could survive for so long. Rank 95. Rank 95. Shui Yi was a bit annoyed as he repeated this. Of course, he knew how powerful a rank 95 was, but because he knew, he was very puzzled. Why would a rank 95 titled battle pet warrior Doluo suddenly appear? He knew the situation in the Star Luo Empire, and he also knew the situation in the Heaven Do Empire. There were no additional rank 95 titled battle pet warriors Doluo, Haotian Doluo, or some other hidden powerful person. There was a possibility, but it wasn't very likely. They wouldn't benefit from it. Was it purely to protect the Shrek Academy? That didn't make sense. The probability was too low. After much deliberation, Shui Yi believed that the Martial Spirit Palace was the most likely reason. Both in terms of profit and possibility, the Shrek Academy was likely to belong to the Martial Spirit Palace, especially the Master. He used to be an honorary elder of the Martial Spirit Palace, and he seemed to be related to the Pope. Because of that, Shui Yi believed that the Martial Spirit Palace was scheming. Anything unusual in the Martial Spirit City? Shui Yi asked all of a sudden. Generally speaking, as long as several titled battle pet warriors didn't leave the Martial Spirit City at the same time, the matter wouldn't be urgent and he wouldn't have received any reports. Since Shui Yi had taken the initiative to look for information, he soon learned that Ghost Charm and Yu Guan, the two titled battle pet warriors, had left the Martial Spirit Palace not long ago. Both of them were veteran titled battle pet warriors at rank 95, Dolu. And the number 95, what a coincidence. Because of that, Shui Yi was almost certain that the Shrek Academy belonged to the Martial Spirit Palace. There was no other way to put it. It was just a hunch. Chapter 290. While Shui Yi, Taiya, and Hellwolf were analyzing the situation, Xuexinghe came to visit. He was there to gather information. He had asked Shui Yi about the note that had been sent out earlier. Shui Yi liked him very much and was training him as his successor. If Xuexinghe wanted to go in, he would not be stopped. Shui Yi allowed Xuexinghe to come in directly. Taiya and Hellwolf did not hide anything. As the Crown Prince, Shui Yi knew of their existence. As for whether there were more powerful titled Doluo in the palace, Xuexinghe did not know. Maybe there were, maybe not. Qinghe, you came at the right time. I told you about Thanos yesterday. Today I will tell you about it. Listen carefully. Shui Yi felt that he had seen through everything. He was excited. Father, you already know about Thanos? Xuexinghe asked with a smile. Xuexinghe's heart skipped a beat. He glanced at the two titled Doluo. Could it be that his relationship with Lin Feng had been exposed? Xue Qinghe was very careful every time he went out. He was well prepared and used soul bones to disguise himself. Not even titled Doluo could tell. Of course, Shui Yi said with a smile. Xue Qinghe was nervous. He started to think quickly. At this moment, Shui Yi said confidently, Thanos is probably a titled Doluo from the Martial Spirit Palace who is protecting the Shrek Academy. He must have some secret. And Lin Feng, he is just a commoner. He was made a count, but he did not listen to the summons and did not dare to enter the palace. There must be something wrong. Shui Yi figured out Lin Feng's and Thanos's identities from the information and their actions. Shui Yi was very satisfied that he had seen through everything. He was sure that his speculation was correct. On the other hand, Xue Qinghe's expression remained the same, but he heaved a long sigh of relief in his heart. He thought that Thanos's identity had been exposed. That was it? That was it? There was no evidence at all. Just based on his own guess, he was sure of one thing. As expected of you, Emperor Snowy Knight. Qinghe, what do you think? Shui Yi looked at Xue Qinghe with a smile. Xue Qinghe cupped his fists and praised. Imperial Father is extremely intelligent. Qinghe admires you. Ha ha ha. Shui Yi burst out laughing, unable to hide the smug look on his face. Tai Yi frowned and said, Your Majesty, the Martial Spirit Palace hasn't made any big moves recently. Besides, even a level 95 titled battle pet warrior like Doluo might not be able to defeat 10 soul Doluo by himself. I'm afraid something is wrong. In fact, there were many loopholes in Shui Yi's idea. But at the same time, there were many situations that pointed to the Martial Spirit Palace. Shui Yi laughed when he heard Tai Yi's suspicion. He said confidently, You haven't noticed, have you? According to the description of the defeated Soul Doluo, the one called Thanos wears a white mask. His martial spirit is a weapon that can transform. He also has the power of lightning. This is all very normal, but there were people who saw a flower appear, and the other party's movements were like ghosts, too fast. Have you ever seen a titled battle pet warrior like Doluo master so many powerful and strange abilities at the same time? Not long ago, Gui Mei and Yu Guan left the martial spirit city. A flower appeared in Thanos's hand and he moved like a ghost. He was able to defeat 10 soul Doluo at the same time. I think the two of them must have done something secretly. Shui Yi's guess was far-fetched, but on second thought it was possible. In fact, Shui Yi was just making things up. That was how people were. They were only willing to believe what they believe. At the moment, Shui Yi was certain that the Martial Spirit Palace had done it. Therefore, he felt that everything looked like what the Martial Spirit Palace had done. He could find a reason to refute what others said. Bickering was an innate ability of humans. When you felt that the other party was a contrarian, the contrarian would also feel that you were a contrarian. But Hellwolf still wanted to say something. Shui Yi interrupted him. All right, send the 10,000 Soul Master team to the Shrek Academy. Capture Lin Feng and the 3 people who were invited just now. Hellwolf Doluo will lead the team secretly. Destroying the entire Shrek Academy had to be done carefully. Shui Yi prepared to capture the higher-ups and Lin Feng first. In order to prevent Thanos from appearing and stopping them, he also sent Hellwolf. Yes, Your Majesty. In fact, Hellwolf did not agree with Shui Yi's point of view. But since the order had been given, he had to carry it out. However, he felt that things were very strange. If Thanos was really from the Martial Spirit Palace, why did he make such a big deal out of it? There was no reason at all. Making a big deal out of it was useless other than attracting attention. The Martial Spirit Palace would not be so stupid, right? Furthermore, Ying Luan Doluo, who was secretly guarding the Martial Spirit Palace, had disappeared. Dugubo seemed to have disappeared for a long time because of the people from the Shrek Academy. This Shrek Academy seemed to be the center of this time. It was very unreasonable for the martial spirit palace to choose such a place. However, what the Snow Knight Emperor said was also possible. It was just that he did not think so. What if the Snow Knight Emperor guessed correctly? If he objected now, what would he think later? Because of this worry, Hellwolf did not say much. Instead, he quickly carried out the order. This time, they captured the Golden Iron Triangle and a student, Lin Feng. The 10,000 Soul Master team led by Hellwolf was the Empire's most elite existence. Their main purpose was to intimidate. There were 2 Soul Doluo, 30 Soul Sages, over 100 Soul Emperors, and the rest were all Soul Kings. That's right, this was a team of 10,000 Soul Kings. At the same time, this was the strongest confidence of the Heaven Do Empire. With such a strong team of Soul Masters working together, even a titled Doluo would not be able to withstand a single blow. This was because such a team of Soul Masters would have an attack that combined the soul power of all the Soul Masters. It was just like the fusion skill of Shrek's 7 monsters in the original work. 7 people, even if their martial souls conflicted, could still use a powerful soul skill. This could not be called a fusion skill because their martial souls were not fused at all. It could only be said that everyone's soul power was combined. This was called a fusion skill. Bringing such a team to the Shrek Academy, Shuiyi reckoned that even Thanos would not dare to appear. A team of 10,000 Soul Masters walking in Heaven Do City had a huge impact. As long as one was a slightly stronger Soul Master in the city, they would be able to hear the shocking footsteps. Flanders and the rest naturally heard it too. Furthermore, the sound was getting louder and louder. This meant that those people were getting closer and closer. This was not right, very not right. Flanders released his martial soul and flew into the sky. After seeing the situation clearly, his expression changed drastically. He immediately ran towards Lin Feng. Chapter 291. After relaying the news to the guards, Flanders and the others thought that His Majesty would either agree or refuse. Logically speaking, His Majesty should give them a buffer period or something. After all, they had just been drinking in the palace. But now, His Majesty had brought an army of Soul Masters over. What was he trying to do? Was he trying to flatten the Shrek Academy in Heaven Do City? No matter what, this was an army of Soul Masters. Furthermore, they were so densely packed that the entire street was filled with people. One had to know that the main street of Heaven Do City was wide enough for 12 cavalrymen to ride side by side. To be able to fill up such a street, one couldn't see the end of it. There were probably thousands of people. Such a large army wasn't something they could deal with. They had to invite His Majesty Thanos over. Just like that, Flanders increased his speed to the maximum and flew towards Lin Feng. In fact, there was no need for Flanders to remind him. Lin Feng had already woken up. 10,000 soul cultivators walking through the city was a force that could shake the entire city. At this moment, the large factions in the city had sent out powerful soul masters to investigate the situation. Soul sages and soul doluo had all come out to inquire about the situation. As for the smaller factions, they were all scared into hiding. Who would dare to go out at a time like this? Originally, there were still many criminals in Heaven Do City, but now they all hid and didn't dare to make too much noise. No one knew what this army of 10,000 soul masters wanted to do. This was because the Snowy Knight Emperor didn't announce the order to the public. He was going to find a reason to do so after everything was over. So far, only the 2 Soul Doluo in the army knew the specific order. In secret, Hellwolf Doluo was also ready to give the order at any time. Just as they were about to reach the entrance of the Shrek Academy, Lin Feng bumped into Flanders. "Little Feng, there's an army of soul masters outside." Inside. Flanders looked anxious. But before he could finish, Lin Feng said, "Dean, don't worry. Mr. Destroy has been in the city for the past few days. He will come when he hears the noise. That's great. Flanders was very excited. After waking up, Lin Feng immediately sent out his incarnation to call for help. The strength of such a legion of 10,000 soul masters was still very frightening. The main thing was that their soul power could connect with one another and form a whole. Many ants can bite an elephant to death. Quantitative change leads to qualitative change. Under the pressure of this enormous soul power, Lin Feng's smash probably wouldn't even cause a splash. Of course, Lin Feng was capable of killing them. His fourth soul skill, Sea of Flames, was an area of effect soul skill. As long as enough soul power was injected, the explosion would be able to destroy their soul power fusion field. Even if the explosion couldn't destroy it, he could let the flames burn and wear them down. It wouldn't take long for this group of people to exhaust their soul power and become lambs waiting to be slaughtered. But Lin Feng didn't want to kill people. These people didn't have a grudge against him. They were just a group of soul master soldiers who were following orders. Lin Feng could kill those who angered him and those who wanted to kill him without any psychological burden. Since he was born, Lin Feng had killed more than 10 people. The main reason was that they were fools from noble families who met him in the forest. Each of them had a screw loose and wanted to kill him for all kinds of reasons. In the end, not only were they killed, but the high-level soul masters who protected them were also killed. In total, Lin Feng had killed 5 fools. On average, he killed 1 every year. The rest were high-level soul masters who led him to hunt soul beasts. After all, there were all kinds of birds in the forest. Dolua had tens of millions of people in the continent, so it was normal for him to meet a few fools. Killing fools was one thing, but this didn't mean that Lin Feng was a murderous person. As a good youth who understood the core values of socialism, Lin Feng loved peace. He only needed to intimidate this 10,000-man army. And his identity as Thanos wasn't enough to intimidate people. That was because not many people knew his true strength. Even if his title, Dolua, was here, it wouldn't be of any use. But Dugubo was different. He was an expert who had been famous for a long time. Moreover, he was an expert who used poison to attack group. Everyone knew how powerful he was. Wherever this kind of person went to fight, their deterrence would naturally come out. At this moment, Lin Feng and Flanders chatted for a while. The latter quickly left. After such a big thing happened, the academy still needed his arrangements. Furthermore, he had to appear and stall for time. Lin Feng's identity as Thanos had already arrived at Dugubo's residence. This was a luxurious residence in Heaven Do City. The Snowy Night Emperor had personally given Dugubo the title of an honorary duke. This duke was very free. Unless the empire was in a life-and-death situation, Dugubo didn't have to do anything. This kind of treatment wasn't much different from Lin Feng's requirements. After all, Dolua was the only titled Dolua in Heaven Do City. He had to have a reputation. Dugubo naturally noticed the 10,000-man army's departure. He was investigating outside. Suddenly, Thanos appeared beside him. Dugubo's expression tensed up. He immediately took 2 steps back and cupped his hand. "Greetings, my lord. The holidays are over." Thanos looked in the direction of the Shrek Academy. "I have a mission for you. Go to the Shrek Academy and get rid of this group of soul masters. Then, protect a student called Lin Feng." "Yes, my lord." Dugubo didn't hesitate. He didn't even have any doubts. He'd already guessed that Thanos was related to the Shrek Academy. After all, whenever he did something related to the Shrek Academy, Thanos would appear. It was too much of a coincidence. After being subdued, he'd actually asked a few questions. Lin Feng hadn't said anything in detail, but he'd more or less tacitly agreed. Originally, he'd thought that Thanos was related to the Grandmaster or Flanders. He hadn't expected that he'd be related to a student like Lin Feng. Dugubo was a little surprised, but he was more cautious. Lin Feng's identity was definitely not simple if he had to personally protect him. He had to protect him well. As long as you do this well, this will be yours in half a month. As he spoke, Lin Feng condensed a drop of sparkling liquid on his fingertip. This was the medicinal power of the immortal medicine. This was what he'd given Dugubo last time. Lin Feng had eaten a lot later. Although the experience points had decreased, the medicinal power hadn't decreased at all. Now that he'd condensed a lot, it was best that Lin Feng took some out as a reward. Although the effect wasn't as good as the first time, it could still speed up the process of condensing his soul power. It was a good treasure. Chapter 292. Don't worry, my lord. I'll do it beautifully, Dugubo said respectfully. Dugubo was still very grateful to Lin Feng. Even if there wasn't any reward, he would still do his best. However, if there was a reward now, he would be very motivated. He also felt that he had followed the right person. Do your best. Lin Feng smiled and patted Dugubo's shoulder. Dugubo cupped his hands again. After that, he turned and ran towards the Shrek Academy. At this moment, the main force of the 10,000-man army had already gathered in front of the Shrek Academy's main gate. There were 1,000 high-level Soul Kings, all the Soul Emperors, Soul Sages, and Soul Dolu. These people were the main force of the army. The other few thousand people were scattered around the Shrek Academy and sealed off the entire academy. The two Soul Dolua leaders were very fierce. They wanted to lead people in. However, Flanders and the other two came out at this moment. Zhao Wuji followed behind them. They were the main force of the Shrek Academy. The suspects Flanders, Lu Erlong, and Yu Xiaojiang have appeared. Take them down. Before Flender even had a chance to say anything, one of the Soul Dolo outside the gate yelled, "Come here, come here!" Following this order, the Soul Sages in the army and the two Soul Dolua leaders surrounded them. The procedures of the Shrek Academy are all legal. The three of us haven't done anything outrageous recently. Today we were summoned by His Majesty. What crime have we committed? Flanders shouted. However, it was useless. This group of people didn't seem to care about them. They charged straight at them. Fight! Lu Erlong shouted. Her martial soul was instantly attached to her body. The Grandmaster and Flanders weren't slow either. They also attached their martial souls to their bodies. The golden iron triangle appeared again. Zhao Wuji roared. He released his martial soul true body. He wanted to buy time for the Grandmaster and the others. Only when the golden holy dragon appeared would they be able to put up a fight. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to resist the encirclement of so many soul sages. At this moment, Ning Rongrong and the others were also running towards the entrance of the academy. They could feel the strong soul power undulations coming from there even though they were very far away. They're fighting. Let's hurry over and help them. Ning Rongrong said anxiously. There were battles between soul sages and above over there, so they wouldn't be able to do anything if they went over. Ning Rongrong's words didn't make sense at all, and were even a little silly. However, humans were sentimental creatures. Even though they knew that it was useless to go over, they still wanted to help when the academy was in trouble. It didn't take long for the group to arrive at the entrance of the academy. They were able to see the shocking sight of the thousands of soul cultivators standing outside. The feeling of a sea of people looking at you with an imposing manner was not something that could be described with words. Right now, Zhao Wuji was still using his martial soul true body to resist the attacks of more than 10 people. The scene of soul skills flying all over the sky, and the soul power that swept out like a storm, was truly astonishing. Under such circumstances, the group that was still a little angry before gradually slowed down their footstep. Some of them even stopped timidly. It was as if there was a raging storm in front of them, and they needed a lot of courage to even take a small step forward. Just as they were hesitating, Zhao Wuji was sent flying by Dolua's punch. He spat out blood in the air, and his martial soul true body was shattered. In the end, he fell to the ground with heavy injuries. However, the golden holy dragon was about to be summoned by the Grandmaster and the others. Zhao Wuji's delay was worth it. As long as the Grandmaster and the others used their martial soul fusion skill, they would have a chance to interrogate this group of people. However, at this moment, Lin Feng's eyes narrowed. He sensed a strong soul power undulation. It was from Dolua, who had been peeping near the Shrek Academy. He had made his move, and his target was the Grandmaster and the others. He was probably trying to interrupt their martial soul fusion skill. His opponent was very fast. A pitch-black claw mark appeared in the air and grabbed at Luo Sanpao, who was above the three of them. Lin Feng could block it, but there was no need for him to do so. This claw was mainly used to disrupt the martial soul fusion skill, and it wouldn't do much damage to the Grandmaster and the others. On the other side, Dugu Bo was about to arrive. Boom! The claw mark collided with Luo Sanpao, and a huge soul power undulation erupted. The Grandmaster and the others were injured, and the people surrounding them were forced to retreat a distance. Someone had secretly made a move, and it was a titled Dolua. Flanders was shocked. He didn't think that the Heaven Do Empire would actually hide a titled Dolua. This was just a guess, but now it was confirmed. Furthermore, they had actually sent out such a powerful expert to deal with them. At this moment, His Holiness Thanos still hadn't appeared. It seemed like they couldn't delay until then. Under Dolua's command, a group of soul sages immediately surrounded the three of them and prepared to capture them. At this moment, a loud shout came from afar. "Let's see who dares to touch them! It's by Lin Dolua. Poison Dolua is here. What's the situation now?" The experts from the various major powers who were secretly observing the situation had expressions of interest on their faces. The Shrek Academy was really a troublesome place. The first time they heard of this name was when Dugu Bo had captured Tang San, and then Flanders and the others had gone to the prince's residence to ask for him. This kind of gossip was spread among some families and powers, and the matter was left unsettled. Everyone forgot about it after hearing about it. The second time was during the battle not long ago. More than 10 Soul Dolua had been beaten out. Later on, it was revealed that the Shrek Academy had the backing of a titled Dolua, and the Connecting Force clan had even reconciled with the Shrek Academy. This matter had a huge impact, and the entire city was talking about it. However, it had only been a few days, and the heat had yet to die down. Before they could finish eating the melon, another big one had appeared. The Heaven Do Empire's Soul Master Legion actually wanted to capture someone. This was too much. In the dark, Hellwolf's expression changed. Dugu Bo had appeared. What was he trying to do? He had thought that Thanos would make a move, but he never expected Dugu Bo to appear. The 2 Soul Dolua in the Legion also changed their expressions and immediately stopped their subordinate. Poison Dolua's reputation had spread across the entire continent. Any soul master with some strength would have heard of his name. Furthermore, everyone was afraid of his strength. Coupled with Dugu Bo's noble status, how would they dare to disobey his orders? As his voice fell, Dugu Bo jumped up and down a few times and arrived at the center of the battlefield. "Greetings, Poison Dolua." The 2 Soul Dolua hurriedly cupped their hands. They couldn't figure out Dugu Bo's thoughts and were puzzled. At this moment, Dugu Bo snorted. "I'll protect the people of the Shrek Academy. You guys can leave." Chapter 293. After all, there were 2 Soul Dolua. One of them was only over 60 years old, and was already at rank 87. He had a good chance of becoming a titled Dolua. That was why Dugu Bo's tone was still polite. Otherwise, he would have asked them to scram. "This is His Majesty's order. He wants us to bring them back. Please don't stop us, Poison Dolua." After hearing Dugubo's words, Sol Dolua hurriedly replied. If Dugubo wanted to protect everyone from Shrek Academy, it would be difficult to do so. After all, everyone still had the impression that Dugubo was Prince Shui Xing's subordinate. Furthermore, they were here under Emperor Shui Ye's orders. It would be interesting if there was a conflict. His Majesty's order. Dugubo squinted. As the ruler of the Heaven Do Empire, the Emperor, everyone in the Heaven Do Empire had a sense of reverence for him. Dugubo was no exception. After all, he had grown up in such an environment. He was filled with respect for the Emperor. Even though he had become a titled Dolua, he was still a little fearful of the Emperor. However, Dugubo thought about it. So what if he was fearful? He was loyal to Thanos now. Thanos wanted him to protect the Shrek Academy. Therefore, he had to protect the Academy. Even if the Emperor came personally, he couldn't do anything to the Academy. There was a kind of chivalry in Dolua's world. If one was loyal to a certain person or organization, one wouldn't betray them. Dugubo was loyal to Thanos now. Therefore, he had to carry out the mission that Thanos had given him. As for Prince Shui Xing, he wasn't loyal to him. He was only a guest elder to repay his kindness. No. The Shrek Academy is under my protection now. Don't even think about taking them away. I will talk to His Majesty. Dugubo muttered. This. The two Sol Dolua looked at each other. They could see the difficult looks on each other's faces. When they set off, they were ordered to capture the three of them, as well as Lin Feng, no matter what. Earlier, there seemed to be an expert who had made a move. This was enough to show His Majesty's determination. However, with Dugubo blocking the way, it was difficult to do so. Meanwhile, Netherwolf transmitted his voice to Dugubo. Dugubo, do you know what you're doing? His Majesty wants to capture them. Are you going to disobey His Majesty? Huo Hao quickly locked onto Huo Hao's position based on his soul power undulations. He hid among the soul sages and disguised himself as a soul sage. Netherwolf, I'm now loyal to Lord Thanos. He's a peerless expert who's much more powerful than you and me. Don't make a mistake. It's best if you know what's good for you and withdraw. Dugubo also transmitted. You're loyal to Thanos? They are from the Martial Spirit Palace. Are you going to commit treason? Deep Wolf's expression changed. It never occurred to him that Dugubo, a titled battle pet warrior who had turned down the Emperor of Snowy Knight's invitation, would pledge his loyalty to someone else. What a joke! How can Mr. Destroy be from the Martial Spirit Palace? He even beat up Yu Guan and Gue Mei not long ago. Dugubo was amused by Netherwolf's words. He actually thought that Thanos was from the Martial Spirit Palace. If he really was from the Martial Spirit Palace, they would have conquered the entire continent. What? Netherwolf was astonished. Thanos actually beat up Yu Guan and Gue Mei? If Dugubo wasn't lying, Thanos's abilities were completely beyond his imagination. He might not be rank 95, but rank 96 and above. After all, Yu Guan and Gue Mei were both rank 95 titled battle pet warriors. They were extremely powerful. Did this mean that the Emperor of Snowy Knight's speculations were all wrong? Just as Netherwolf was astonished, the two titled battle pet warriors from the Dolua Empire were a little anxious. Their 10,000-strong Soul Master Legion should be able to handle things well no matter what. After all, this was the Heaven Do Empire's elite legion. It was the symbol of the Empire's strength. If they were to retreat because of Dugubo's words, where would their dignity go? Would the Emperor of Snowy Night still want his dignity? Even if what they did was wrong, it had to be right. At most, they could just let them go. After all, this was the prestige of the royal family. It was something that couldn't be challenged. Hence, no matter what, they had to bring these people away. As he thought about it, Sol Dolua persuaded one last time. His Majesty said that these three people and a student called Lin Feng must be brought back. Please don't make a mistake, Poison Dolo. At this moment, Netherwolf also understood the situation. He also knew that the Empire's reputation was here. However, if a strong person like Thanos was really as powerful as Dugubo said, it wouldn't be wise for them to provoke him. As he thought about it, he transmitted a message to Dugubo, Dugubo, give me some face first. Let us bring these 4 people away. After that, you can go to the palace to get them. If it was possible, Dugubo would definitely want to do so. After all, this was something that would benefit both sides. Not only would it take care of His Majesty's reputation, but it would also fulfill the request. However, the order that Dugubo received previously was to ask this group of people to scram. Furthermore, Thanos specifically said that he had to protect Lin Feng. At this moment, he was actually going to be taken away. That wouldn't do. He rejected directly. Netherwolf, this won't do. This matter is special. Even if it means offending His Majesty, I won't hesitate. Looks like this matter can't be settled peacefully. Netherwolf also saw Dugubo's insistence. He stopped persuading him and transmitted a message to the 2 Soul Dolua. You guys capture them. I'll hold Dugubo back. As he spoke, he was about to hold Dugubo back. On Dugubo's side, he wasn't flustered at all. If it was before, he might be a little flustered when facing Netherwolf. After all, his strength wasn't as strong as Netherwolf. However, now that his strength had increased greatly, Netherwolf was nothing. Hold him back and capture him? No way. However, just as the 2 parties were about to fight, a thunderous roar sounded from the side. You're just a small wolf. How dare you ignore my words? I told you not to let me see you again. As soon as he finished speaking, a rod actually instantly appeared by the Netherwolf's side, and then it swept towards him. At this moment, Netherwolf's expression changed drastically. He could feel the aura of death. In a hurry, he couldn't dodge it. He hurriedly possessed his martial soul and raised his hand to block it. Bam! The long rod hit Netherwolf's arm and a dull thud sounded. Following this, his body flew to the side like a kite with a broken string. He only stopped after smashing through a few walls. Netherwolf spat out a mouthful of blood. He was severely injured, and there was even a tinge of fear on his face. How is this possible? It was just an ordinary attack. He didn't even use a soul skill. He was a rank 92 titled Dolua, but he was severely injured. Even if he wasn't prepared and reacted hastily, the difference between the 2 of them still made him feel a little hopeless. The figure in the green robe and the white mask holding the rod made Netherwolf a little fearful. Chapter 294. This Thanos was too strong, that Dugubo wasn't lying. At this time, with Thanos and Dugubo here, they couldn't catch anyone this time. Go. Hurry up and leave. Hellwolf immediately sent a voice transmission to the 2 Soul Dolua, and then he immediately retreated. One Thanos was already so strong. If Dugubo attacked again, he would definitely die. For safety's sake, he was the first to run. The 2 Soul Dolua were also frightened by Lin Feng's strike. That Soul Dolua should be the hidden titled Dolua, but he was actually seriously injured by a single strike? This was completely beyond their comprehension, and their hearts were filled with fear. At this moment, Hellwolf sent a voice transmission to them to leave. They didn't dare to stay any longer and immediately ordered everyone to retreat. As for Lin Feng, he didn't stay any longer. After striking with his staff and watching Hellwolf leave, he also disappeared. The reason why he took action was mainly because a fight was about to break out. A battle between titled Dolua was very strong. If they really fought, a large number of the buildings at the Academy's entrance might be damaged. And there was a tea house here that had pretty good tea. Lin Feng would run over to drink a cup when he returned from the Soul Arena. He didn't want to run out of good tea in the future. Just as the 10,000 Soul Master army retreated, Dugu-bo said to the surrounding people, "I will be overseeing the Shrek Academy. Whoever wants to cause trouble, think twice." The surrounding onlookers were all experts from various large factions. They knew what Dugu-bo meant when he said that he would protect a faction. This meant that the Shrek Academy's backer would be extremely powerful. In Heaven-do City, the Shrek Academy would become an existence that could compete with the Heaven-do Academy. It was enough to predict how prosperous the Shrek Academy would be in a few years. For a time, all the factions had the intention of befriending the Shrek Academy. Some factions even received some gossip that the Seven Treasures Glazed sect seemed to think highly of the Shrek Academy. Under such circumstances, the Shrek Academy would soon become the focus of the entire city. The Soul Master team retreated, and the Hell Wolf quickly returned to the palace to report the information he had heard from Dugu-bo. At this time, at the entrance of Shrek Academy, Lin Feng healed the injuries of several people. "Thank you, His Majesty Poison Doloa, for your assistance." Flanders hurriedly cupped his hands towards Dugu-bo. "If you want to thank someone, thank His Holiness Thanos. I did it because of him. In the following period of time, I will be protecting student Lin Feng." With that, Dugu-bo smiled and nodded at Lin Feng. "Mr. Destroy told me about this, but I don't need your protection. You can just take up a position in the school," Lin Feng said. Asking Slayer Lord to protect him was just a casual remark. The main point was to let Dugu-bo intimidate the 10,000 Soul Master Legion and scare them away. Dugu-bo was a little hesitant. The mission he received was to protect Lin Feng's personal safety. Now that Lin Feng said that he didn't need protection, it was a little difficult for him. At this time, Lin Feng continued, "I will talk to Mr. Destroy. Nothing will happen. Senior, you just need to protect the Shrek Academy." "In that case, alright." Dugu-bo nodded. The mission changed from protecting a person to protecting the academy. In fact, the difference wasn't big. At most, he would spend more effort on Lin Feng in the future. At this time, everyone looked at Lin Feng with admiration. A titled Dolua's bodyguard was sent over, but he didn't want it and gave it to the academy instead. This selfless dedication was really admirable. At the same time, Flanders and the others were very grateful. No matter what, Thanos, who was behind Lin Feng, had saved them so many times. Since they couldn't find the person to express their gratitude, they could only thank Lin Feng. At this time, Doloa had joined their academy because of Lin Feng. Lin Feng was very humble in response to these words of gratitude. After all, he was used to it and didn't feel anything special. Just like that, with Dugu-bo's addition to the Shrek Academy, a new chapter had begun. In the future, as long as one wasn't an idiot, no one would dare to provoke the Shrek Academy. Prince Xue probably wouldn't even dare to fart now. His biggest backer had joined the Shrek Academy. How could he have the courage to do anything? At this time, in the palace, Xue sat on a chair with a lonely expression. After he finished listening to Netherwolf's report, he immediately realized how ridiculously wrong he was previously. His deductions were all wrong, but that wasn't the main point. The most important thing was the other party's strength. He had actually severely injured Hellwolf with one strike. Although they were agility-type titled Battle Pet Warriors, Doloa was still a titled Battle Pet Warrior. His defense was also very strong. To be able to injure Hellwolf with one strike, his strength was terrifying. Moreover, Dugu-bo had pledged his loyalty to Thanos. This was something they never expected. This guy had a strange temper. They had tried to rope him in so many times, but it was useless. They didn't expect him to pledge his loyalty to this Thanos. "Your Majesty, this Thanos probably doesn't have any other intentions. Let's express our goodwill," Taya said. If the other party really had any other intentions, it would have been a good time. If Thanos and Dugu-bo attacked together, Hellwolf would have most likely died. But the other party didn't. Therefore, Tai Yi guessed that Thanos wasn't as dangerous as Shui Yi thought. Express goodwill? Shui Yi fell into deep thought. He wasn't stupid. Previously, he had just thought wrongly. Now that the situation was set, he only needed to choose between continuing to oppose and making peace. Continuing to oppose was obviously unwise. It might cause unrest in the empire. If he made peace, it would be a matter of face. However, this matter could be done secretly. The main thing was to express his goodwill. Thinking about it, he said, "That student called Lin Feng, I agree to his request. The 3 people we invited earlier will all be made earls. Also, Tai Yi, go and ask Dugubo if there's anything we can discuss." After giving these orders, Shui Yi slumped to the ground like a deflated balloon. For an emperor, it was very difficult to make this decision. Later, Tai Yi would go and talk to Dugubo. If the results were good, he could accept it. However, if the other party made an excessive request, he might choose to continue opposing in anger. Wasn't he very strong? He would directly invite Ning Fengji and Dusty Heart from the 7 Treasures Glaze sect. He didn't believe that he would lose. The 7 Treasures Glaze sect had deep ties with the Heaven Do Empire. It wouldn't be a problem to ask the sect master to kill the enemy. Just like that, Shui Yi's orders were quickly carried out. First, the news of the conferment was sent to Shrek Academy. After the other party knew that he wanted to express goodwill, Tai Yi went over to talk to Dugubo. Chapter 295. As a matter of fact, Flanders and the others were confused. They couldn't figure out why. In the end, with Lin Feng's reminder, they realized that the Snowy Night Emperor had given in and wanted to express his goodwill. They were astonished by this idea. The Emperor of Snowy Night, the ruler of the Heaven Do Empire, had admitted defeat. That was unbelievable. Lin Feng had guessed it, but he didn't expect it to happen so soon. It had been less than an hour and the Emperor of Snowy Night had already admitted defeat. Right then, Lin Feng suddenly turned to the gate. Another titled battle pet warrior, Doluo, had arrived. This one was even more powerful than the previous one. He stood outside the gate, emitting his energy to let the powerful ones inside know that he had arrived. Dugubo's eyes flickered. He came to Lin Feng's side and said, "The Iron-Tooth Doluo is here. He's much stronger than the previous one. He should be here to negotiate. What should we say?" Dugubo had received a message from Thanos, telling him to listen to Lin Feng for the next few days. Therefore, he was asking for Lin Feng's opinion. Lin Feng said, "Beat him up if he dares to make any demands. We don't have any demands. Let's just mind our own business." After understanding the situation, Dugubo immediately ran out and began to discuss with Tai Yi. About 3 minutes later, Dugubo came back. Things went well. Iron-Tooth didn't make any demands and the Emperor of Snowy Night gladly agreed. Apart from that, Iron-Tooth wanted to know more about Thanos. Lin Feng didn't hide anything from Dugubo. Dugubo told Lin Feng what he wanted to know. Just like that, Iron-Tooth went back with good news. Mind our own business. That was a good idea. The Emperor of Snowy Night could accept it. After all, Thanos had become more powerful than the Emperor of Snowy Night could imagine. The Emperor of Snowy Night was in no position to negotiate with him. The so-called continuing to oppose him was actually just a dead end. Unless he could seize the opportunity to have several titled battle pet warriors attack Thanos together, he would have to face the revenge of a super-powerful battle pet warrior as long as Thanos received the news and fled. Since the other party was able to make such a promise, it was already good enough that they minded their own business. As a matter of fact, Doluo's background wasn't the most terrifying thing. This was because soul masters like them would have their own fetters, concerns, and misgivings. Soul masters like them were easier to deal with. What was frightening was someone like Lin Feng, a solo expert whose background was unknown. This kind of person had no scruples in doing things. Even though he had come to an agreement with Thanos, Shui Yi was still worried that Thanos would run into the palace one day and kill him. Of course, this was just Shui Yi thinking too much. Lin Feng was not that bored. At this time, he had already run back to sleep. He had been woken up midway. Now that everything was over, he naturally had to go back to sleep. This caused Ning Rongrong and the others to exclaim in admiration. They said that Lin Feng was very carefree and could still sleep. Without explaining anything, Lin Feng slept very soundly. The others were not so carefree. They gathered together to discuss. After today's events, the group of people who originally had a good impression of the royal family had seen through them. They did not expect the Snowy Night Emperor to be such a person. He was much weaker than Xueqinghe. While the people in the academy were discussing, the upper echelons of the large family clans were also discussing. They analyzed the situation and came up with a plan. However, they soon received a warning from the upper echelons that this matter was not to be spread. It was the Snowy Night Emperor who ordered people to seal the news. After all, this concerned his reputation. The fewer people who knew, the better. Just like that, 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. These days were very peaceful. The entire Heaven Do city was very peaceful. Apart from the House of Strength and the Shrek Academy, no other family clans dared to befriend them. The reason was simple. No one dared to be the first to stand out. The current situation was very clear. The Shrek Academy and the royal family were in a standoff. The families in Heaven Do City were naturally on the side of the royal family. At this time, standing out was the riskiest. What if they offended the Snowy Night Emperor by befriending the Shrek Academy? At that time, the unlucky ones would be their families. Because of this, no one dared to make a move. However, as time passed, the various families would start to play around the edges. For example, sending people to the Shrek Academy or sponsoring gold coins. In any case, they would slowly test the Snowy Night Emperor. If nothing happened, the Shrek Academy would become incomparably prosperous. There would be an endless stream of people coming every day. In any case, undercurrents were surging in Heaven Do City. On the other hand, Martial Spirit City was very quiet. Originally, some of the elders were calling for their friends to impeach the Pope. However, today Yu Guan and Gue Mei returned. They brought back 3 soul bones. 2 were 10,000 year, and 1 was 40,000 year. A 40,000-year soul bone was worth more than 3 10,000-year soul bones. Therefore, Yu Guan and Gue Mei made up for the hole in the soul bone. During this time, they killed many 10,000-year soul beasts. They even attracted the attention of the Titan giant ape in the forest. Only then did they slowly stop. Fortunately, they were lucky enough to obtain a 40,000-year soul bone. The 2 elders returned with a 40,000-year soul bone in their hands. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Bibi Dong held a meeting to praise them and win over the hearts of the people. Yingluan returned to Heaven Do City. When he left, it was calm. When he returned, it was also calm. At first, he didn't discover anything. However, when he learned about what had happened in the past few days through the Martial Spirit Hall's channels, he was shocked. There was a battle between the titled Dolua in the city? There was also the matter of the Snowy Night Emperor. Could it be that the world of Soul Masters, which had been quiet for more than 10 years, was going to be turbulent again? Because of the battle between the Martial Spirit Hall and the Clear Sky Sect, as well as the Clear Sky Sect's retreat, the entire world of Soul Masters became quiet. There was no passion. Not to mention the battle between the titled Dolua, Soul Dolua rarely went out. The world of Soul Masters was like a pool of stagnant water. There was no vitality. But now, it seemed that there was a trend of activity again. Even a powerhouse like Thanos had appeared. However, he didn't know whether this was good or bad. Under the impact of the general trend, even a large force like the Martial Spirit Hall could be destroyed. Yingluan didn't think too much. He only hoped that nothing would happen to His Highness and that he could complete his mission safely. This was a dangerous move that Bibi Dong had been playing for more than 10 years. At the same time, it was a very important move. As long as it succeeded, the martial spirit hall would take over the world. No force could stop them. Chapter 296. On this day, Lin Feng was preparing to go to the Great Soul Arena to continue today's battle. But after taking a few steps, his gaze was attracted by a scene on the right. It was still the same tea house. Xue Qinghe was sitting by the window on the second floor, looking at him at this moment. Lin Feng sensed his gaze, looked back at him, and then walked over. This surprised Xue Qinghe. How could he notice this? He originally sent someone downstairs. As long as Lin Feng appeared, that person would go over and bring him over. After all, Lin Feng didn't feel strong and shouldn't be able to notice his gaze. But he didn't expect Lin Feng to notice it directly. Did he misjudge his strength? Or is his martial soul special? Or is it just pure luck? Just as he was thinking about this, Lin Feng came up. He wasn't stupid enough to ask his doubts. He used his soul power to seal this small space so that no sound could be transmitted out. Then he said, "Tell Mr. Destroy that Elder Yingluan is back. We can make a move now. Some news can be escorted by his subordinates, but important plans have to be made in person." "I got it. Is there anything else?" Lin Feng took a sip of tea and nodded. In fact, when he saw Xue Qinghe, he roughly knew what the message was. After hearing it, he was just being polite. "Do you have someone you like?" Xue Qinghe suddenly asked. This question made Lin Feng choke on his tea. After coughing twice, he said, "Why do you ask this question?" At first, Lin Feng was puzzled as to why Xue Qinghe would ask such a question, but soon, he came back to his senses. It was about the Marvel family that he mentioned last time. At that time, he talked nonsense for a while and fooled Xue Qinghe. After that, Xue Qinghe didn't respond, and he was busy with other things, so Lin Feng forgot about it for a while. Now that he was asked, he recalled this matter. "I'm just asking." Xue Qinghe also took a sip of tea. "If you don't, I can introduce you. I know quite a few of the daughters of the major noble families in Heaven-Do City." Upon hearing this, Lin Feng's expression turned slightly strange. "Xue Qinghe, oh Xue Qinghe, I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. You know all the daughters of the noble families. This is too showy." Seeing that Lin Feng was in a daze, Xue Qinghe continued, "How is it? Are you tempted? What kind of girls do you like? I can pick one for you." On the surface, Xue Qinghe was introducing a girlfriend to Lin Feng, but in reality, he was trying to find out what Lin Feng liked. He had never given up on the idea of marrying into the Marvel family. He hadn't done anything before. He was just looking for an opportunity. At the same time, he was also looking for those people named Parker and Tony. Later, he found those people. He found them in the Great Soul Arena. He also watched their battle. They were very powerful, but he didn't know their age. The most important thing was that as soon as these people finished their battle, they would disappear inexplicably and he couldn't see them at all. In this case, he was going to test Lin Feng first. "Don't be shy, as long as you say what you want, I can definitely introduce you." Seeing that Lin Feng was silent, Xue Qinghe said to ease the awkwardness. I don't need it," Lin Feng said with a slightly strange expression. "How can I not need it? People like you from the Marvel family are so outstanding, you should have an outstanding girlfriend. How about my sister Xueku? She's very beautiful and a little younger than you." To get close to the Marvel family, he doesn't necessarily have to marry into the family. If he can get Xueku over, it can be a good plan. "You don't have to worry about this, Your Highness. I actually have someone I like." Lin Feng was just playing around and talking nonsense. He didn't know why, but he liked to talk nonsense in front of Xue Qinghe. Maybe it was because of the other party's identity as a super spy, or maybe it was a sense of superiority after seeing through his identity. Anyway, as long as he saw Xueqinghe anxious, Lin Feng felt that it was quite interesting. You have someone you like? Xueqinghe frowned, but he quickly smiled and said, I'm very curious, what kind of beautiful woman can be liked by a genius like you? His tone was half joking, which made people feel comfortable and didn't make them feel irritated. However, Lin Feng said, this is a secret. Xueqinghe was slightly mad in his heart, but on the surface, he still smiled and said, can you tell me about the Marvel family? I'm very curious about Mr. Destroy's family. Actually, I'm not too sure about this. Lin Feng pondered for a moment and said, I heard that once upon a time there was a mountain, and there was a temple on the mountain. There were 2 soul masters in the temple, a soul master and a little soul master. One day, the soul master said to the little soul master, once upon a time, there was a mountain, and there was a temple on the mountain. There were 2 soul masters in the temple, and one. At this point, Xueqinghe immediately reacted. Wait. How long is this legend of yours? His face was full of bewilderment, and he felt that things were a little strange. I'm not sure about this either. Lin Feng scratched his head and said with a serious face, anyway, Mr. Destroy told me for more than 3 hours, and then I fell asleep. I don't know what happened after that. Xueqinghe was speechless. Wasn't this an infinite loop of a bedtime story? To be able to talk for 3 hours, Lord Mia must be really bored. Especially you, Lin Feng, who could actually listen for 3 hours. No one else could. But then again, was Lin Feng really that stupid? He was so strong and a genius, it was impossible that he didn't notice this, right? Wasn't this contradictory? Thinking about it carefully, Xueqinghe felt that Lin Feng was playing with him. But he had no evidence, because Lin Feng's expressions were very real, and it felt like everything was real. Xueqinghe couldn't doubt Lin Feng's stupidity, right? That would be too offensive, so in the end, he could only keep it in his heart. Do you still want to listen? I can continue to tell you. Lin Feng continued with a serious face. In fact, looking at Xueqinghe's doubtful eyes, his heart was already blooming with joy. This tea-house was indeed a good place. Not only was there good tea to drink, but there was also fun to be had. It was great. No need. Xueqinghe guessed that Lin Feng was deliberately teasing him. He didn't want to tell him about the Marvel family, so he was playing with him here. Xueqinghe couldn't be alone for too long, or something big would happen. It seemed that he wouldn't be able to get anything out of him today, so he could only wait for the next opportunity. Thinking about it, he got up and said, I've brought the news. I have something to do in the palace, so I'll go back first. If you take a fancy to my sister, you must tell me. Lin Feng did not say anything, but just smiled and continued to drink his tea. This Xueqinghe was really an interesting person. There would be fun in the future. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.